Welcome to the Heat in the Kitchen podcast. I'm Chef Avi Shemtov. My producer, Corey O'Leary. I told myself I was going to do that first today. It's the first time I've introduced him.
5 episodes in, no one's ever heard my name.
As almost always, Dave Becker's here with us. Do I have to tell them what you own yet again? I'll tell them. Sweet Basil and Needham, Balani and Waltham, and Juniper and Wellesley. And then today we have a crazy special guest with us. We have Jerry Thornton from Barstool Sports.
Barstool Sports, exactly.
Amazing. Cool. And a stand-up comic.
Stand-up comic.
Formerly of VEI.
Yep, I was with WEI for 2 years and started stand-up. My first show was an open mic show on Labor Day night of 1990.
Wow.
Yeah, so I'm coming up on 30 years. Don't let the fact that you've never heard of me discourage you from the fact that, yes, someone's still paying.
Thornton's here from Barstool, a little sports, little politics, mostly TNA in the 80s, having the hotter chicks. Background movie chefs, Jerry's Cosby impression, Brady stays and losers use the comment section. Heat in the kitchen. Leave a comment below. I don't know if there's anybody that hasn't heard of you.
Well, aren't you like you're Barstool Sports, like Original 6, right? Isn't it something like that?
Original 4.
Original 4?
Yeah, I got in I don't think he had been publishing. When I say he, I mean Dave Portnoy.
Right.
I don't think he'd been publishing that newspaper that began us for a year. And an ad popped up. I was looking for a writing opportunity. I do a lot of sports stuff in my stand-up. And a site looking for writers. So I sent him an email, and he came right back and said, send me a sample of stuff. And I did. And he says, okay, you're in. It doesn't pay anything.
Yeah. Well, you're the poster boy for working for free.
Yeah.
Because you're worth $100 million now, I heard. Right?
Yeah.
Is that the number?
Yeah.
Is that the number?
No. Yeah. I own slightly less of a stake in the company than Dave does.
Yeah.
Dave supposedly is worth $100 million. Yeah. I own 0 stake in it. But I draw a salary, and
Who's your agent?
You know what? Look, this was long before, Penn National Gaming came in and bought a big chunk of it. Look, I was happy when it was bought out by half of it was bought by Chernin, because now it became a corporation, and I could get all those boring things that prevented me from going full time before, like health and dental and a 401k or whatever.
Right.
So that happened while I was at WEI. And EEI let me leave my old full-time day job. I was working for the state. Yeah, that was me. I was working in the court system.
Oh, nice.
I was a badge monkey, as I like to call it. All Rise, that was one of mine. Yeah, I came up with that.
Nice.
No, doing jury trials at some little rinky-dink district court or whatever. And got into a lot of trouble because I was always writing for Barstool when I should have been doing other things.
Yeah, right.
I'd have lawyers come up in the middle of the trials and go, so how do you think it's going? And I'd be like, I'll be honest with you, I'm not paying a damn bit of attention. I'm on my phone looking up stuff about the Patriots, but I'm sure you're doing great. What is it? Shoplifting, murder? Tell me. I don't care. But so I couldn't leave to go to Barstool full time, but EEI gave me a chance. And then when they got bought out by Churn and they had that big Times Square press conference that everyone's seen by now, I was like, I wonder if they'd take me back. And David had me on his podcast, and I reached out to him, and the negotiation lasted 2 minutes.
Yeah.
I named a price. He said, sure. We shook hands. That was it. So,
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's great. Now it's continues to go to the moon.
Yeah, now it's national.
Oh, God, it was unheard of when it was a thing in a free newspaper box next to the MBTA stations, and he was delivering the papers in an Astro van that was always getting Denver booted for unpaid tickets and crap. And I was like, maybe this will turn into something someday. So
that ad that you responded to would have been like around 2010-ish?
No, sooner. I would say more like 2004 or 5.
Oh, wow. I just remember that in 2010, only because I remember where I was managing a real estate office at the time, there was an ad similar to that where Barstool was looking for somebody to write, also still unpaid, and a guy that worked for me was convinced that this was his moment, and he submitted all that, and he's not funny at all, like not even a little bit funny. He wasn't a good real estate agent either, by the way, and he was terrible. I don't know what he was doing with his life. And you know what his thing was? He was ignoring real estate to write responses to an ad for something where you're supposed to be funny, and he wasn't. But I kind of wondered if that would be funny to me if you got that spot, because I'm trying to picture this kid, Jimmy Yang. I'm trying to picture him ending up in your spot and how terrible Barstool would be. It just wouldn't be funny. It wouldn't be interesting. He wasn't even really a sports fan. The whole thing was weird.
So as a real estate agent, he was a writer, and as a writer, he was a real estate agent.
At best. At best.
God only knows what he'd do. Have you stayed in touch with him? Do you know what he's doing today?
Nope. Also haven't kept in touch with him. No.
Jeez.
He's probably still trying to write for Barstool. He's probably like submitting things daily.
Aren't we all?
I have people reach out to me all the time. Hey, can I send you some stuff, and can you get me a job there? And look, I get it. I get the appeal of it. I see why you want to do it. I'm so far removed from that. And I don't know how the people in charge handle it. Like I remember when I first started with them, we finally met after like months. And we were doing a radio show at the Place in the financial district. It was called The Place.
Yeah, I know.
And he was paying for the time. And as I've said before, you could open up your window and yell out it, and more people will hear your voice than listen to that show. But I finally met him, and I said, "Do you ever turn people down?" He goes, "Oh, I turn down 10 people a day."
Oh, is that right?
And that was back then. Now
Right.
it must be 10 people a minute. Just
of course.
doing submissions. But his instincts for hiring people has been great. It went way beyond a paper or a website. It's a lifestyle for people. I had a 70-year-old guy from the Cape send me an email to just say, "Hey, I really appreciate your writing," or whatever. I have friends who have a 13-year-old son who's got a Saturdays for the Boys flag on his wall.
Yeah, right.
Males, females. It's, for a while there, we were tapped into this 30-year-old culture of like cube monkeys, and we were entertaining them, and now it's the Globe.
Yeah, now it's like that.
Well, it's doing better than the Globe.
Yeah, and of course I meant the Earth,
Yeah,
the
of course.
Globe, the Globe. Just because the New York Times bought it for $1.1 billion and John Henry bought it for less than the real estate it was sitting on is worth, doesn't mean that they're failing.
Yeah, right.
No.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
But
Although I will say, they just gave us an accolade, my new restaurant here, and it's been crazy how they move people still.
Yeah, no, they're still kind of the boss.
Yeah, which is so weird to me because I didn't know people read it. But again, people had to tell me that we were in it. But I appreciate it. The Saturdays for the Boys thing is funny. I was at a wedding in Aruba, and all these the guy getting married, great guy. He married my wife's college roommate. He's a corrections officer, so all of his buddies were all crazy correction officers, and they're getting ready to jump off of this boat in the water, and all of a sudden they hold up this big sign that says "Saturdays are for the boys." And I turned to my wife, I'm like, "What the fuck does Saturdays are for the boys mean?" I didn't know what it was, but now I know. Now I'm familiar somewhat with Barstool culture. Mainly, I honestly started following Barstool a little bit after you left EEI. I was more of to me, it was more impressive that you're on EEI. I'm a guy that just kind of that's I
not
grew up
anymore.
listening to EEI.
Not anymore. It's not impressive at all.
Well, I don't know. You know what's weird?
No, Barstool is huge.
No, Barstool's huge. I'm just saying there's something about traditional media that to me is cool. I don't know why.
Yeah, of course, we grew up listening to
Yeah.
it. That makes more sense. But
you can't be on both?
No. You can only serve one master. And the same was true when EEI hired me. I'm saying, "Can I dabble with Barstool?" And they're like, "Yeah, no, we need you every day."
gonna go on
driving
call
ratings."
her daddy or something.
Yeah, and they gave me space on their .com, and that was a chance for me to continue to write the stuff that I wrote for Barstool for there. So I enjoyed that part of it, and they had no objection to me going on Dave's podcast or whatever. And I appreciated the opportunity. I mean, I said to them when I left, "You guys changed my life." It's not often you can say that to a guy.
Right.
And they offered me a new contract to come back, but they totally understood why the stool had an appeal to me. And what I found the major difference is when I went to EEI, it opened up a whole new audience who were mainly 50 years old and older.
Oh, right.
And, if we did
Makes
a
sense.
remote at some bar room or whatever, there I would bump into stoolies who are always in their 20s, and "Oh, we miss you. We miss you on Barstool." I'm like, "I didn't die.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
just
right.
I'm just at a different URL address
Yeah,
or whatever."
basically, yeah.
But, they're two separate worlds, and I kind of, I guess, have a foot in each one of them.
So you didn't die. The only thing is, though, and again, just to bring up something that Callahan said last week, he said radio is just too safe. And I think that's true, especially, I don't know, to me, especially EEI. I could see where to a Barstool fan, it's similar to dying, just in the sense that, the stuff that you're able to say when you're on a Barstool stops being the kind of stuff you can say.
Sanitizes.
Yeah, I mean, the stuff that, and I won't bore people with the same story over, but there was something a couple weeks ago on EEI's morning show that they beeped out, and it took a couple minutes to try to figure out what had been dropped, and then it turned out to be the word retarded, which is again something like I don't say in my day-to-day life. I'm not a proponent of saying, but I was
You don't
like,
have to
that's
give us
where
the
we're
disclaimer every single time.
All right, I'm just saying. Well, because I don't want someone to think like Avi thinks that saying retarded is okay to say. It's not something I say. It's just not my thing. But I was like, that's what we're like panicking about on the radio now is, and it wasn't calling a person even. They said that's retarded. So I was like, so we're at a point now where that's being bleeped out. Like I don't understand it. But they do say the word pussy. How does that work? I don't know what the rules of radio are.
Well, they showed it on the Super Bowl halftime show last night. So what does it matter?
Jesus, yeah.
Yeah.
That was rockets last night.
I mean,
Yeah, and that line moves all the time, and maybe that's in a good way. I can say this: I never had to put anything in the swear jar.
Right.
Like I think I'm good with having a
once
national
the red light goes
governor.
on, yeah, of course.
Yeah, and it was like from being around my mom. Like I'd have a weekend with my buddies where you couldn't finish a sentence without dropping the C-bomb in there at least once,
Right.
and get home and I would filter that stuff out. Sometimes my humor got crossed the line and I got bleeped, and I found that to be like, you know what? I'm not doing my job if I don't push that envelope a little bit.
Yeah, of course.
Because I was with two very safe guys. I was with Michael Hawley, who is a deep, devout Christian guy who probably has never sworn in his life. And I get Dale Arnold, who comes from that Netsing culture of everything is safe and you stay between the lines and you don't cross it. And then I come in as this agent of chaos or whatever, and I reined it in a lot. But some of the safety, like getting rid of the word retarded, I'm all about that. It's everyone should have one word that bugs them to no end, and that's mine. I also don't fall to the ground and start like swallowing my tongue if someone uses it either.
I'm just a little bit more like, my point about the culture is I'd rather be the guy on the radio show who like someone goes, that's retarded, and then I go, dude, don't say that. Like that's not like, what do you say that word out loud? Like that's a thing you do, as opposed to beeping it out, and it's like someone in the back is like, oh my God, please like beep that. We can't have that word heard. That's more what I mean. I don't.
Yeah, I can't imagine what it was like for Jerry Callahan, because he went through there, and I'm a huge fan of his. When it was basically the Wild West. And they crossed a couple lines and got burned for it or whatever. That happens when you're speaking extemporaneously 20 hours a week,
right,
for years.
For 20 years.
Yeah, you're gonna stub your toe. It happens. I mean, Howard Stern apologized for things sincerely or whatever. Now he's apologizing for his entire life.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I mean, Stern has just done a complete 180, and he hates Howard Stern.
I don't like that. It bores me. It actually makes me wonder, and I don't know. It's cool. So meeting Jerry and talking to Jerry was so cool, because it was like the moment we walked in the room, Jerry was like Jerry Callahan. He was exactly who he always was. I dig authenticity. Even if I hate everything about you, I love that it's authentic. And to me, the thing that I wonder about with Stern, and sometimes there's guys in this local market I wonder about this too, is I don't know, maybe he really never was that guy. Maybe he was always someone that was sitting around going, how can I piss people off today, instead of just being himself. Because, the 180 that Howard Stern has done, I'm uncomfortable for him. Like, I'm uncomfortable with the idea that, like, dude, he used to say things that, like, make Louis C.K. seem clean. Like, weird stuff, like talk about shaving his new girlfriend, and I'm like, dude, you got teenage daughter. Like, this is weird.
His mom's pubic mound.
Yeah, like this is weird shit. And now he's like, right, he like wants to like be they call him Howie Hamptons on they used to on the morning show, and that's exactly it. He wants to be at those parties. Now he's on those TV shows, and I'm like, I don't know how to reconcile the fact that you used to be the bad guy and now you want so bad to be in that in crowd. It's corny.
Oh yeah. Oh, you get guy. Everyone evolves, and that's cool. That's life. There's a difference between evolving and then repudiating everything you had done, like after, like from one day to the next, to the point where his favorite thing used to be, I remember tuning into his old TV show, the Channel 9 show. I come home late on like a Friday night.
On his own nuts, like,
He used to do what?
I saw a guy wearing a Speedo and he sprayed lighter fluid. So they just found some clown to do this.
Yeah.
And he like lit it on fire and fried an egg on his package. It was the best. I saw that in 5th grade. It changed.
That was the best. In 5th grade, that might be the best. You're going like, that was the best. I'm going, that's really fucking stupid.
Oh,
but
awesome.
I remember I came home, I got dropped off by a buddy of mine. I walk in the house half biffed, and it's Friday night, and I pop on his Channel 9 show, and he had fishing rods with hot dogs on them, was feeding them to strippers. Okay, now his favorite thing is Ellen DeGeneres dancing.
Right.
Come on,
Which-
he said that is my favorite. He loves Rosie O'Donnell. Now, I listened to him on a Conan podcast, and he wasn't going for laughs. It was very serious because it's one of the funniest podcasts out there normally. And he was sincerely just saying, I just feel terrible about the way I made other people feel to get a cheap laugh. It's like, I'm into people, it's kind of to your point, Avi, who their inner voice sounds exactly the same as their outer voice.
Right.
Say what you will about Trump. I think that he doesn't have a filter. You know, like he's not, you know, there's guys I think are suspect. Mitt Romney, I don't trust. I think his inner voice is evil and his outer voice is, this is great and everything's swell and I care about you, the working person. Give me that guy, and I think Callahan's one of those guys. I don't think he has two separate, he doesn't have that Smeagol Gollum thing. I like to think I don't either. There's different facets of it, but I'm.
So how's Howard Stern doing, like, ratings-wise? Is it, like, working for him?
You know, I don't know. He's on that
no idea.
Sirius XM thing, and he just kind of owns 2 channels on there, so I don't think ratings really even matter. I don't think anything drives it except for him just trying to have a nicer obituary.
Right. I mean, if you remember, he was Sirius. So like Sirius, he was their big get to make people tune over. Like that was
Subscribe,
the thing to subscribe. So like the thing is, I think at this point, right, it's probably more about equity and ownership, and Sirius makes all their money in.
When I bought my
in a
car,
bunch
they
of things.
sold it to me with, like,
Yeah,
it
free.
comes with Howard Stern on the
Right.
thing.
Yeah, of
Exactly,
course,
yeah.
Oh, it's like crack dealers. Same thing. My wife leased a car, and it's got Sirius XM, and 6 months in, the lease that contract was up, and she's like, "Oh no, I need this. I need to
I
listen
know.
to my opera channel on my way to work." I'm like, "What the hell?"
Same
So
with
tell
me.
us about your experience with crack dealers. No, I'm just kidding.
You know, I'm a meth
story we'd
guy.
love to hear.
I don't want to judge anybody, but
Sure.
I'm into the crystal.
Well,
so
South
yeah.
Shore, so I mean that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. In fact, I'll
Ouch,
start
did you
pulling
take a
teeth
shot
out.
at the South Shore? By the way, the South Shore, my wife's from Jersey.
Okay.
And I would say, like, there's no one that loves where they're from, like people from Jersey, except actually the South Shore. People that are from, like, if I picture the South Shore as, like, I'm driving into Boston, and instead of hanging my left, I bang that right. If I take that right, everyone down from there to the Cape loves where they're from, like really hardcore. Actually, I should mention all these craft beers are from Craft Beer Cellar
I
in
was going to
Braintree.
mention that, yes.
Kay
What are we
is
drinking?
amazing over there.
Fat Tire, is that what you're drinking?
I'm drinking Fat Tire. We've got some Torpedo and some Purple Haze. But have you ever been to Craft Beer Cellars in Braintree?
Oh, listen, you are sharing my culture right here. And we've got brew pubs everywhere. A couple of weeks ago, I met a guy, just someone I had met before, and he wanted to sit down and just discuss a project or whatever. At noon on a Saturday in January at this one brew pub in my historic homeland of Weymouth. And it was every table in there was packed, and there was a line around the building for cans to take home. Noon on a Saturday.
Yeah.
That's the South Shore culture.
Saturdays
right
are for
there.
the
So
boys.
I own a company called Tap Mobile Beer Trucks, and I do a beer garden in Braintree through the fall every year. And it starts at noon on a Saturday.
Yep.
And it is rowdy. It's so much fun. The people are cool. It's just great. But what I find amazing is all these folks on the South Shore are like, you could have the best craft beer in America, and they don't give a shit if it's not from the South Shore. But man, if I told them, I'm like, yeah, some dude from Weymouth pissed in this, they'd be like, give me 3 of them. I'll take it. If it's Weymouth pissed, it's gotta be amazing.
Weymouth North, Weymouth South. All right, where do you go to high school? Yeah.
Oh, it's like that in Weymouth too. I know it's like
we-
that in Quincy.
We used to. We
Quincy.
reunified, yeah. No, that's why even though I've not lived in Weymouth for a while, I still say Weymouth because when you do, people go, "Oh, you must know Fitzy or Kitsy or Big Head or Little Head or whatever," and nobody ever says that about I don't know. Just to pick a town at random, Sharon.
Yeah, right.
Oh my gosh, Sharon! I know Sharon. You know.
Well, no, if I tell them I'm from Sharon, which I am, they're like, you're Jewish, aren't you?
Yeah.
Which I am, so I can't really refute. But
Oh yeah, like
less
it's a
now.
ghost town during the Jewish holidays. Like there's one kid sitting on the school bus.
Yeah, well, you'll appreciate this, Dave, as a restaurateur. The fucked up part is that because of all the Jewish holidays, like it's impossible to figure out the cycle of like, okay, you're going to be slow here, but then it's going to get busy again here.
It's like after the fast days, it's nuts. Like
Well,
everyone comes in all hungry.
And no one's even religious though around here. It's just that, like, okay, it's a well-to-do enough town that everyone just disappears for the summer. So you go, okay, September is going to pick back up, right? People get back into their schedule. Except September is like, I don't know who the fuck made the Jewish calendar, but it's like High holiday,
Jews.
super. Is that you think that's
Yeah,
what it was?
the Jews, yeah.
I don't think so. I think it was the rest of the world to control. I'm just kidding. No, the Jews probably made that calendar at some point. Yeah, they probably made that religion too. I mean, that's probably how it happened.
I think their God
Yeah.
did. And here's the major difference as a Catholic boy myself. Like,
Is that the same God?
well, the Old Testament God is different than the New Testament God. The New
there's a
Testament
different
God's
God?
all about forgiveness and atonement and and love. And the Old Testament God is about suffering and punishment. I mean, fucking
that's the
Job.
Catholic side.
Job, he wiped out his family, burned down his house, and then gave him boils on his neck, like just for laughs, all because he had a bet going with Satan. Like, all right, let's just watch. Let's use this guy. And Job is one of his followers. So I'm like, all right, now I believe in both of them. I think it's the same guy, but he just kind of mellowed by the time my guys started writing stuff.
I dig it. I'm not a particularly religious person, so I'm more of the school of thought that I'm like, I don't know who the fuck made this stuff up and why they chose to. Like, if I was going to make up a religion, I wouldn't make it hard on me. That's just not how I would do it.
Oh yeah, mine would be one of those cults.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, what did Creed Bratton say from Dunder Mifflin? I've been in cults and I've led a few. It's more fun to be a follower, but there's more money to be a leader. I would have one of those. People bring me money and
No, the Scientology one. That's the best one, right?
Scientology is a religion, and those people deserve every tax break in the world. I'm
that's right.
Jerry Thornton. Do not harass me.
By the way, that was Corey. I also want no part of that, okay?
Oh,
I
I've seen
respect
the
you.
I've
I
seen the
respect you,
Netflix
to you.
things.
Yeah, I respect you. What was the chick?
from-
Leah Remini?
Leah Remini.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God, that just will chill you to the bone. Going Clear, the documentary where they just if you split from the church, they buy the house across from your house and spend 24 hours a day making your life miserable. But hey,
No, that's
they're
if you-
just exercising their religious freedom. Leave me alone, everybody.
If you get out of their high rise, they can lock you in first, and then if you manage to get out, then your life is hell after that.
I think we should just stop talking about Scientology.
Oh gosh, yeah,
Jerry
yeah.
is scaring
like,
the shit out of me.
I don't know
want no
how
part.
the hell we ever got onto the religion
Yeah,
thing.
Abby was shitting on his own people. That's
No,
what
it was
I
because
heard.
you
That's how
mentioned
it started.
Sharon, so we can't talk about. There's nothing
I
else to
wanted
talk
to
about.
talk
Sharon.
about bar pizza because I've never had it.
You've never had South Shore bar pizza?
No,
Okay.
I'm embarrassed.
I make
to
the
say.
best.
See, our mutual friend Kerry Byrne told me this years ago, and it broke my brain. The pizza I grew up on, what we call bar pizza, which is cooked in a pan that big, that's with the sides on it, served in cardboard inside a paper bag. He said it only exists on the South Shore, and not only that, it gets more specific. It made its way down Route 37 through Randolph, Dorchester, down to like Holbrook, Braintree, whatever.
Oh, that's a bar pizza pan?
That's a bar pizza pan. There you go.
And it gets all the burnt bits. It's like,
Yeah, and the fact that Route 37 somehow is the Silk Road from which this has migrated from the old world to the new world, like Marco Polo first brought it back or whatever from Dorchester.
And the craziest part about South Shore pizza is that it's all about the burnt edges and all that stuff. But the coolest or the craziest part is that depending on where you grew up, I'm from Sharon, so for us it was Town Spa. in
Oh,
Stoughton. It
sure,
was
absolutely.
And that's one of the places. And then
gonna
people
go
will
get one
claim.
today.
Will you?
When we're done, yeah.
because
Yeah,
I'll tell you where. So my personal opinion is that Randolph at Linwood.
Linwood's,
To
yep.
me, that's the best.
All
I actually think people will say that Spa, people go, it was better before it moved. It moved 30 years ago. So I grew up eating it at the newer place. I don't know. Big D's in Canton is dope, really good. But what's it? Alumni out by where you guys are? That was a good one. I had that.
That's a biggie. Poopsies, which is down in Pembroke.
Okay, I've
Down
heard
that
of it. I've never
serious
had
event.
it.
I mean, it's been there so long. I literally had a night where ate at Poopsies and then went across the street to the old movie theater and saw Tootsie. It was kind of a weird theme night. What is this show about, by the way? This is
the Jerry
attention
Thornton
deficit
show.
theater. I love it. This is
how we do it.
Maybe that's what we'll call it. No, it's I don't know. It's kind of about food, sort of about life.
No, it's
Cool.
it's never.
Yeah.
You say it's about food every week, and we talk about food for 10% of the
Because
show.
we never have the people. Well, it depends. Dave can talk about. Fine, you want to talk about food? I was told, by the way, is it true you used to cook for a living?
Yes.
Tell
I
me
have a
about that.
degree in culinary arts.
I
believe
heard
it or not.
that's what Carrie told
And
me.
it's not. I went to Newbury College in Brookline, and I was working full time while I was there. It's just a friend of mine hired me to work in his kitchen, and I said, you know what, I like this. Well, the thing that drew me to cooking, the appeal is, it's all the disciplines. It's artistic. It's scientific. It's creative. It's improvising things. It's accounting. And I like that. Ultimately, it wasn't my path. That's why I don't bring it up much, because it's so incongruous to a guy who sits around all day and is, in a Batman sweatshirt writing stupid stuff about the Patriots or whatever. And now I grill and I smoke, but I don't do a lot of like real elegant high-end cooking. I'm just cooking for my family or whatever. But yeah, I've lived this life.
That's very cool. And then you just chose. So you went from there to the court stuff.
Yeah, and I was working in corporate food service, which was kind of not a lot of money, but it was a nice life. It was 9 to 5 and holidays and weekends.
See, it's funny. We think of corporate as like not as cool, but good money and a better life. Like that's the way. We think of that as good money.
The money wasn't great, but I was in an air-conditioned office, and I was out the door at 3 o'clock every afternoon and whatever. And you stayed late sometimes, but there was overtime. Oh my God, that was a thing. I was working in one of the high rises in downtown Boston, so it was a little side of things I never would have seen otherwise. But ultimately, it wasn't my path. And I worked in a restaurant for a little while, and we've all had that experience where your life is, all right, you're working 12 to 9, which means you'll be lucky to be getting out at midnight, and you're going to walk in a crazed rageaholic is going to be screaming at you, I'm in the weeds! Get changed! Let's go! Where you need a shower before work and after work. Yeah. It's the only occupation where that's the case. So, it ultimately wasn't for me. I enjoyed it. It was a path to something else. But ultimately, I was like, I just want to tell jokes and write stuff.
I've worked on Avi's food truck maybe like 5-10 times. Probably not even 10. I don't want to work that hard. Fuck that. You know what I mean? Like this guy works like 120 hours a week.
It's running these things. Less than that, like 108.
Yeah, exactly.
Is it 120 hours a week of doing something you really love, or is it a grind? Because for me, it was more of a grind.
So for me, and I would be interested to hear what Dave says, I would say it's like 100 hours a week, and 60 of those are doing things that I love, and then 40 hours are doing like grind or stuff that I just don't care about, but you have to do if you want to be successful. And that's the part of my job that I always say, like, I wish that I could just cook for a living, but I made the mistakes of opening businesses, and so I don't just cook for a living. I do a bunch of stuff that
dealing with the egos.
What I want to do.
That's what I think. Yeah, I've talked about that
before.
Yeah, people managing.
Yeah, it's just dealing with the people. My favorite part is like hanging out, shoot the shit, make some food, talk about soup. It's like
sure, yeah, and not to mention employing the unemployable in a lot of cases. You know what I mean? Like it's the last stop for a lot of people between just getting on the public dole and actually having a job.
We should actually work out a deal with Barstool where those 10 people a minute that are being turned down come to one of our restaurants. Yeah. Like, hey, can I get a job at Barstool? No, go work at Simca.
Yeah, yeah, you can cook on the line, but you have to be able to find time to tell me what you would have blogged about Tom Brady's contract or whatever.
But see, the leverage for me would be perfect, because then when someone was like dragging or something, listen, I need you to hurry up on that. Well, listen, you could leave and you could just go work at bars. Oh, no, they told you no, you can't. You better be faster on the dishes then.
Oh, yeah. It is an insane life. I have a specific memory that just came back to me of I had a traffic ticket, some minor thing that led me to court. And I get there and I'm working in a restaurant. This is my life. I'm pulling 60-hour weeks or whatever. And I see people standing around talking. And they're on the clock. And they're just at the courthouse. And they're having friendly conversations. And I go, I don't have 30 seconds a week to do what these guys are doing. I don't even get to eat. Like, what the F? And then I became that guy.
I was about to say, then you got that job.
Right, exactly. That was a tough transition, believe me, to go from one to the other. I almost got the bends. You know what I mean? Like, they had to put me in a hyperbaric chamber to slowly, like, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do? Yep. I'm just sitting here doing nothing. Yep, that's what you should be doing. My God, this is a godsend. And it ruined me for life. Like, now I could never work for... I sometimes have bad dreams where I'm back in the kitchen and it's just the bills are, the receipts are coming in and the grill stops working or whatever. It's like those stress dreams to this day, and I haven't done it in decades.
Yeah. So I was gonna say, Avi said, we should work out a deal with Barstool. I was gonna say, Jerry's on the podcast every week, and El Prez Penn National buys this podcast, but just buys it out. That could be the deal. Why do you want him to send people to the restaurant when you could do a podcast?
I mean, I need employees in my restaurant more than I need to have a famous podcast.
Dude, they're a public company.
Yeah, I'm all about under promising and over delivering on that. I can't.
Every week you can't be here every week.
the business side of it is something I'm not involved in. Also, I never desired to own a restaurant. I didn't desire to start my own website or anything like
I
that.
haven't had a job in 10 years.
You're
so.
either wired that way or you're not. And
Yeah, right.
I just want to. It's like doing comedy. Like I run a few comedy rooms, including Victory Point at Marina Bay in Quincy, where we're having a show this February 22nd. But I'm more wired to say, what time do I show up? What do you want me to do? And then I get paid, and I'll do the best
get your
I
check in the
can
mail,
at
right.
that. You know, as opposed to being the guy in charge. It's not. It's. I'm not even in charge of my own life. You know what I mean? I'm the vice president of my own car.
Yeah,
you know?
right, exactly. Yeah.
So from reading your stuff and listening to you, I've gauged that you like Tom Brady a little bit.
A little
You
bit.
seem like you're a Tom Brady guy a little bit.
I was filling in with Jerry Callahan's morning show one day, and we got to interview him. And I said, "Hi, Tom. I just want to start out by saying I'm a fan of your quarterbacking." And then I mentioned that it was my birthday, and he said, "Happy birthday" to me. Oh
I
my
remember
God,
that
that's the
day.
greatest moment.
Yeah.
When I'm getting called to my great reward, when that shaft of light comes down out of the ceiling, I want that voice to be the one to welcome me. To the great God.
Tom Brady.
At your wake, they play the music. You just have that on loop the whole time.
Yeah, just happy birthday, Jerry.
Happy birthday, Jerry.
Happy birthday, Chair.
Yeah.
Happy. He called me
So
Chair.
where
It's
do you,
great.
where
So-
do you stand on last night Brady's Hulu thing? Is that his announcement? He's coming back. How's this going to work?
Yeah, he can. The whole Patriots organization can stop toying with my fragile emotions right now. I mean, going back to Gronk last year, where I'm like, he's putting out these 5-word, Instagram posts, and I'm like, Google searching what that means to find out, is it some rap lyric, or is it talking about paying a stripper,
always
or is
the
it
rap-
him
that's
wanting
right.
to get paid or whatever? Like, this is too much for me right now, okay? I'm in a very delicate state. So him doing that, and it was one of the things I suspected that, okay, that could be an ad thing. And then
you
it
wrote
looked-
a couple articles about that picture, didn't you?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Listen, last week I'm driving to I've written a couple of books about the Patriots, From Darkness to Dynasty and 5 Rings, soon to be 6 Rings. And I'm driving to a book appearance, and I had to pull into a Chinese restaurant because there were 2 reports I got, phone calls, that Brady and Giselle were in Nashville checking out private schools. So I had to write a blog from my phone just because it became my job on that second call. And then I come out of the thing, and then there's that cryptic, wordless post of him. Is he walking out? Is he walking back in? People are breaking this thing down like the fucking Warren Commission.
Yeah, right.
You know, like it. And then a day later, it occurred to me that it looked just like a Kobe ad on his final game, the same pose or whatever. And then I suspected this could just be a cynical way for him to make a buck.
Oh,
and,
they're marketers.
Oh, the people at my Super Bowl party were livid. I'm like, this is the price.
Why are they livid? Hey, listen, Tom Brady can do whatever he wants, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, I mean, that's true.
You know what I mean?
But he just.
Hulu got their money's worth.
I know, but then I was waiting for Bill Belichick explaining that he benched Malcolm Butler for Hulu or something. Can we stop the toying with us on this? By the way, quick point about Super Bowl commercials: is it too much to ask that they be sexy like they used to?
Yeah, well,
I'm asking for TNA. Is that too much?
I mean, did you not watch the halftime show?
I watched that. No, for some reason
There was T, there was A, there was B, there was all kinds of stuff.
And it's like, look, I'm a red-blooded American male. Give me more of that. But there's certain places where you can get away with anything now, and then you can't. So, for instance, Super Bowl ads. Remember the one, tastes great, let's fill, and the girls are fighting in a fountain or whatever, or they'd have Adriana Lima selling underwear or whatever. And now it's become totally safe. Even though the rest of TV is there's full frontal nudity and Game of Thrones and sex scenes on Bravo or whatever, but God forbid you show cleavage in a commercial. It's got to be the doofusy guy who wants the Bud Light or whatever. Like, bring it back to where it used to be. Movies too. Movies are antiseptic now. When was the last time you saw real Mr. Skin level TNA in a major release movie?
I don't know. I have to
Crazy
Google
violence.
that. I'd have to Google that.
Like Total Recall from the 90s, I was watching it. It was off the charts violent. You know what I mean? Like they just wouldn't do it anymore. You know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah. Listen, I grew up. I cut my teeth in the 80s era of teen sex comedies. So it was
Fast Times.
Fast Times, Revenge of the Nerds. Porky's, which was garbage, but that kind of started the whole thing.
Right.
Those were PG. Those were PG.
Wow.
Phoebe Cates getting out of the pool to the sound of.
Those are PG. I didn't even know that.
Yeah. Not only was it PG, it was directed by a woman.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, like men are still wired the same way. Like there's only so much entertainment I can get out of baby Mr. Peanut. Okay, like, you want to call my attention when I want to go grab another beer? Like, just show me a hot actress.
Most of the women, I don't think have a problem with it. Look at Barstool Sports. Call her daddy. That's like the biggest podcast there is. That thing is huge, and it's just two girls talking about sex. You know what I mean? And everybody listens to it. Probably. Female listenership is probably higher than male. Maybe not.
You know
I
what's
don't know,
funny? You know what's funny is you point out men are still wired the same way, and I agree with that 100%. And yet I think we live in a culture, because I actually think it's not just guys that are wired the same way. Women are wired the same way and expressing it more than before. On one side, like our music culture and stuff like that, it's getting more and more and more out front. And yet, when it comes to advertising and movies, we live in this cancel culture where everyone that goes to express that inner voice, that just to be funny. Like when you're around your friends, you're just in private, you make jokes because they're funny. And these people know you well enough to know, like, that doesn't mean this guy hates whoever he just joked about or thinks that death is funny or someone's tragedy is hilarious or anything. You just make the joke because it's funny. And now they make movies, they make commercials, and they sit there and they go, now we have to watch it and wonder if any single possible human being can attack us and humiliate us and say that we're done forever based on anything that's on that. And then they just sterilize it. And it's ruining entertainment to some degree. And yet, last night on the halftime show, that was like as out there as we've seen in a while. But I don't know, maybe because, I don't know, I saw it billed today as like female empowerment. But then I've also seen they're getting killed about it. People are calling it inappropriate.
Nope. See, that's my brand of feminism.
Yeah, I'm with you.
The empowerment thing. Like, look, if you want to...
They want to do it, yeah. Who am I to tell them they can't do that?
Right. If you want to shake your stuff like Shakira and J-Lo did, knock yourself out. If you would rather dress like the wife in a polygamy cult, again, your call. You know what I mean?
Would you have watched it? Would you have watched that version, the polygamy cult dress version?
Yeah, definitely not.
No, me neither.
No.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm not even predisposed to watching the halftime show. I do because it's part of my job now. But I mean, I missed Janet Jackson's nipple because I was in my buddy's next room shooting pool because it was the halftime show.
Right.
Like, what do I need to see? Justin Timberlake and Janet Jackson for?
Right.
And so the next day, I had taken my job off, the next day off from my job, because even then I was writing about the game for Barstool, and I turned on the TV and everyone was talking about the halftime show, and I literally didn't know why. I didn't know what had happened there because I'd missed the whole thing. Fun fact about that, you know what pop culture phenomenon rose out of her nipple?
No.
YouTube.
Oh, shit.
Yep, that there was so many searches online for Janet Jackson's boob or whatever variations of it that someone just said, you know what, there's a market for fresh video that we can post and, the public can just have access to and sign up on our account, and that exists only because...
So think about how much Janet Jackson's nipple changed the world.
Yeah, exactly.
Where would we be without YouTube right now? Where would we be without YouTube?
I know.
Where would you be without? Who knows?
Right. It's from me. It's an ever-growing part of how I entertain myself. If I have a Saturday morning, I don't feel like I have to work. I want to relax. Before I turn on TV, I'm picking up my tablet and I'm just watching videos about movies or reviews or sports or whatever.
Yeah, right.
And my kids do it more than I do, and I think it's eventually going to replace movies and TV probably.
What was the ad with Wilford Brimley, who's the guy that does the oatmeal and diabetes? So,
I know. Yeah. Diabetes is what the hell?
So like this is how my staff is working. They weren't talking about the halftime show and there were people dancing, whatever. They talked about Wilford Brimley not believing how young he is.
Yeah.
He's 80. He's 84 years old. He's looked like he's like 100 for like 40 years.
Yeah. So the only thing I saw about him was I saw a clip that just showed him like from a while ago, and it said this is what he looked like at 50, and then a clip of J-Lo. That's the one I saw.
And I think also a lot of people have confusing.
I thought he was on an ad. I was like, wait a second, how did this all come up?
No, and I think a lot of people too are confusing Andy Reid with him.
I was going to
the
say
casual fans who had never seen it. And you look at, they're both, lovable walrus mustached fat men.
Brimley's way
You know what I
thinner.
mean?
Brimley's way thinner.
And
Andy Reid's
also,
a big boy.
and I think, remember we were talking earlier about inner voice, outer voice? I'm pretty sure that he is an unrepentant asshole and always was. You know what I mean?
yeah.
He's America's grandpa doing reverse mortgage commercials
Yeah,
or
right.
whatever the fuck he's doing. You know.
I thought you meant Andy Reid for a second. Did you?
Oh
see,
no, Andy Reid. Andy Reid's just.
he seems like a nice guy.
He wore an Aloha shirt.
Yeah,
to
everybody
read
loves
it.
Andy Reid.
As Homer Simpson said, those shirts can only be worn by Polynesian waiters and big fat party animals, and he is the latter.
I love the video of him in like pump, pass, and kick in whatever year that was, and he
Oh
looks
my
like a
God.
giant, you know
They
what I mean?
spelled his name wrong.
Yeah.
But did you see the size of it? Have you ever seen this video?
Yeah.
No.
So this guy that's a professional football coach. There's a video that you have to Google to find, and it's on YouTube, and it's him I think he's in the 5th grade, and it's punt, pass, and kick. He's 3 times bigger than anybody else there. Like it's absurd. He looks like a grown adult man who's huge with a bunch of little kids. It doesn't make sense. You look at it, you don't believe he's in 5th grade.
Yeah, and it wouldn't surprise you if he walked across the street afterwards and went into a bar without getting carded. You know what I mean? And these kids are like coming up to his elbow and stuff.
And he's in like a little football uniform too, so it's just like it looks like Chris Farley in like a skit. That's what it looks like. It's too.
You know, and if there's another person I like more than Brady, and that's hardly possible. I'll tell you a brief story. My brother calls me during the playoffs last year, and the Red Sox playoffs. I mean, and they're playing the Astros, and he goes, doesn't even say hello. I'm not going to clean this up. If you bleep it, feel free.
No,
to
wait,
bleep
bleep
He
it.
goes,
No, this
okay.
is
He
a
goes,
podcast, baby.
Doesn't even say hello. He goes, all right, here's the deal. You could be Brady banging Giselle, or you could be Justin Verlander banging Kate Upton. Who would you rather be? And I said, out of those names you gave me, I think I most want to be Giselle. Dude, that's stupid.
I knew it.
That happened. But I might even like Belichick more if that's
That's what I was
possible.
gonna ask.
And Belichick and Andy Reid are such boys that they had a consecutive streak going of making trades during the draft.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
That
I've
just to keep it alive, like one of them is sitting on the 233rd pick, and the other one's sitting on the 234th, and they were just bored, so they said, "Let's just swap picks,
Right.
just to do it." Like so,
No,
Reed's cool for me. I'm glad he won. Good for him.
Anybody
you know?
that coached that long made Donovan McNabb a respectable quarterback. Then I all the props in the world to him to finally win a championship. To be in it that long and actually win, it's got to be like the best feeling. You know what I mean? Because at some point you got to be like, I'm never gonna win. You know, I guess once you get Patrick Mahomes, you think you're gonna win, but
Yeah,
the
and
way,
to
I'm
not have that moment where he messes up because he's got a bad
Right.
history of managing
of
the
course.
clock and
well, you know what? They were
timeouts or
they were
whatever.
down the whole game, so it's like, well, you throw it, put the ball in Mahomes' hand. You know what I mean? Once you're up, that's when you get nervous, like the 49ers did, I
Well,
guess.
Shanahan, who has been outscored, I saw something like 46-0 in the last 2 fourth quarters of Super Bowls. One as the offensive coordinator, one as a head coach.
Oh, that's painful.
sucks.
Oh, and by all means, he seems like a good guy too. And in fact, Belichick, I think, you know, he loved his puppy Jimmy G and wanted to give him a good home.
Yep.
So he
Yeah.
sent him to Kyle Shanahan and to John Lynch so that he would be taken care of and
next to
have a nice
nothing.
tree that
Yeah.
he could like run.
But we
sleep
all
under.
hold on.
Like
We
next
all
to
agree that Belichick wanted to keep Brady, though, right?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah,
of course.
and it's the biggest fallacy out there, and it's the Stalin said the big lie. The more you say it, people will believe it.
Right.
One article that was filled with factual inaccuracies in ESPN the magazine said that Belichick was forced to trade Garoppolo
Right.
by ownership, and everyone took that and ran with
Yeah.
it because it,
I always thought that was bullshit.
Yeah, it's that confirmation bias by like mediates who want to say there's a rift. There's
Right.
a rift in this. I've been reading about this rift for 20 goddamn years.
That's the thing. It's like, listen, I'm pretty sure Belichick doesn't do anything he doesn't want to do, and if he didn't want to trade, like what they weren't going to fire him if he kept Jimmy Garoppolo. Like it wasn't going to happen. You know, Tom Brady was the best quarterback, so he kept him.
Yes,
I think it's
exactly.
as simple as that.
And the most disingenuous people are the ones who say, yeah, but they could have figured out a way.
Oh, yeah, yeah, I
you
love
could have
that,
you
yeah.
could have franchised them. Okay, so you're going to pay him $30 million a year because that's what it would cost
Right. To sit on the bench.
to sit on the bench.
And he still wouldn't be the best quarterback on your team.
Yeah, and to be on the back, to sit there and hold a Microsoft Surface tablet
Right.
and watch Brady play. And since they traded him, they went to a Super Bowl where Brady threw for 500 yards
Yeah.
and then won the next Super Bowl.
Right.
Brady threw for 180 yards in fourth quarter and overtime in the championship game at Kansas City.
Yeah, right.
You gotta tell me that Jimmy G, as handsome as he is, and damn, does the problems of the world go away when you look at that man?
Please tell me you guys saw the thing on Twitter about some grandmother said, "Oh, this looks like some guy from like the 1950s." Did you guys see this?
Yeah, I saw a
The headline on Twitter.
Twitter, people put two things together. It's just one of those actors you've heard the name, but I couldn't tell you.
He was like
Trevor
Tyrone Power or something.
Tyrone Power, I think
Something
that was
like
it.
that, yeah.
Not
It
Terrence
was like,
Howard.
oh my God, that's Jimmy Garoppolo. As soon as I saw, I'm like, this is fucking freaky.
Yeah, one time I was with a mixed group of people and we're watching the game, and they do a cutaway to the Pats sidelines, and it's Brady, Garoppolo, Edelman, and Amendola, and someone in the group goes, "That is the Mount Rushmore of handsome."
Yeah.
I should mention it was me. I'm looking at these wives going, why am I the one saying that out loud? And I think that puts me in a good place, right? I think that means I'm
Jerry Thornton's like,
super
I wish I was
secure in who you are. Yeah, I
yeah,
respect
exactly.
that.
I'm a Brady sexual.
Yeah,
We're having a parade.
I wish I was Olivia Culpo right now. That's what you're thinking, weren't you?
By the way, the only thing, so to the whole respecting Belichick thing, my whole take on the Brady staying thing has always been that the one thing that Belichick hates the most, more than anything, is dead money. And the way this was set up, so to me, one thing that doesn't get said often enough is that Brady didn't want the no franchise tag because he wants to leave. He wants the no franchise tag because what happens to quarterbacks when they're not going to get kept is they get franchised, and then the team picks where he's going instead of him. So I just think to him, it's like, we're either going to sign something here or I'm going to pick. You're not going to franchise me and trade me. Because he'd be valuable. The Patriots obviously would just franchise him until they figured something out. And then they would move him or they'd make a play under it. But to me, I just don't see Belichick letting $13.5 million at the quarterback position with nothing. So they're going to figure this out. Whatever that number is, they're going to throw it at him. He's going to say, hey, I'll take less than that, but give me some talent. And they're going to build an 07 like roster for 1 year. That doesn't mean that they'll win it, but it means they probably will win it.
Yeah, I'm 100% Avi. I agree totally. This notion that he's dying to get out of here and Belichick wants him gone because they both want to win without the other to prove. They
both want to win.
These guys are insanely hyper competitive, like alphas who know that they work well together, and to think like he would risk not winning another trophy just so that maybe he could win a trophy to say, see, that one doesn't have Brady attached to it. Yeah. They all look the same.
Right.
Except for the one with the dent in it. Yeah. Thanks, Gronk. But yeah, I'm with you.
I mean, the relationships that matter. People get it wacky when it comes to pro sports. Like, they think that it's not a job to this guy. It's a job. You know who has more of effect on his day-to-day life? The guy in the parking garage, the guy that works in the clubhouse, the trainers, those are all people he'd have to give up. So when someone who can name their price and it can have the roster built around them looks at moving on. I mean, look at Peyton Manning. He didn't want to leave. He would have done anything to stay in Indianapolis. They said, hey, we got a great pick. We're moving on from you. And it's not like he said, hey, I want to go spend the last 2 or 3 years of my career in a completely different city and learn a brand new system. I mean, even looking back on it, I'm sure that those 2 or 3 years on a personal life level they were frustrating. I mean, having to find a new home, having to refigure, like, it's just annoying.
And he had an otherworldly defense that carried the rotting corpse that was him
so bad.
To the Super Bowl.
Last year was so bad.
And by the way, I just finished watching the special, and if you haven't seen it, I recommend it highly. It's only an hour long. The Brady Heist. It's about his jersey being stolen, and it sounds like, who cares? Oh no, it's amazing.
Really?
It involved international relations. It involved like federal law enforcement agencies from 2 countries. It involved El Chapo comes up in it. It's amazing. I kid you not. But anyway, during that that special, it begins with Brady beating the Falcons in the Super Bowl, and the first person he hugs is his mom, who's wearing the kerchief from her chemo.
Right.
The year before, it occurred to me as I'm watching this, Peyton Manning won, and the first person he hugged was Papa John.
Papa John, yeah.
If that doesn't sum up those 2 guys, I don't know what would.
Have you seen that guy recently? Have you seen what that guy looks like?
Elvis. He looks like Elvis.
Have you seen it?
Oh yeah, because now he's eating like 30 pizzas a week or some shit like that.
So he
He's
got
eating his
kicked out of his
Felix.
own company. They fired him. And then he went and did some interview, and he looks like
Elvis.
He looks like Elvis. Yeah, he's just all bloated up. That's not just pizza, man. That's pizza and regret and 30 racks of rolling rock. Like, it's just bad. It's ugly. And he's just sitting there can't keep his eyes open.
Yeah, it's like supersize me. You're killing yourself with pizza.
Claiming that the pizza is no good anymore. He's like, I've eaten 40 of these in the last week, he said, and they're not good anymore. And I'm like, man, first of all, they weren't good in the first place. I don't know why you're saying these things. But Peyton Manning must still own that stock. That's got to cause a real problem between those two guys.
I would think, but here's the thing: people hate Tom Brady for reasons that I can't fathom. To me, the America I grew up in, he was the kind of guy we admired. He came from nothing. He was overlooked. He was fighting for playing time behind Lloyd Carr was the coach there. The guy who looked like Gargamel from the Smurfs. For at one point, Brady was behind his
half, one half, two half, one half, two half.
At one point, he was behind Lloyd Carr's son on the depth chart.
Yeah.
And Drew Henson, right?
Yeah.
Fun fact about him, he was, he'd been drafted by the Yankees when he was like 18.
Right.
George Steinbrenner was offering him a huge signing bonus to skip the minor leagues and come straight to the Yankees, the major league team, just to get him away from Michigan because he's a big Ohio State fan.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, like he just to fuck with the Wolverines, and
that would have fucked them worse because
Brady would have gotten a better shot.
Yeah.
So we admired guys like him. Now look at Peyton Manning, a guy who was to the manor born. His father was a celebrity. He never once had to compete for a job. I'm not saying he's a bad guy or he didn't make it in this world or he wasn't a successful quarterback, but never once did he have to walk into the University of Tennessee and wonder if he was going to be starting.
Right.
We sort of resented guys like that.
No, we used to like the winners and not the stat guys.
Yeah, but the crazy thing is
he was born in the red zone, and people treat him like he drove the length of the field.
I think it was once Brady became like a stat guy, then everybody was like, "Oh, and well, he has everything, so we can't allow this."
It's just so. First of all, it's crazy that Brady's alleged to have taken a little bit of air out of a football, and you can't say his name to someone from outside this region without hearing a cheater.
Yeah.
But Peyton Manning is provable that he had steroids sent to his house, and no one talks about that. No one it's just forgotten that he had human growth hormone delivered to his house in his wife's name.
I will never forget the reaction when that story broke, and he gave one friendly interview where he denied it categorically. And every panel show, without question, all said the same thing. Well, he says he didn't do it, and I believe him. And I was like, what world am I living in? The other guy denied the stupid thing that can be disproven by middle school physics.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
PV equals NRT. When the weather gets cold, my Twitter timeline and my Facebook blows up with people showing me pictures of their dashboard where their check tire pressure light comes on.
Yeah, right.
And I go, I guess you cheated, whatever. But Manning just got away scot-free. He sent a bunch of goons pretending to be law enforcement knocking on the door of his accuser's parents.
Right,
Whoa.
right.
Scared the shit out of him. And now that's fact.
Right.
No one talked about it.
No, of course.
The Manning machine is evil and insidious, but they intimidate people better than that church that we mentioned earlier.
They're going to put Eli. I mean, you could go either way with this, but that Manning machine is just going to put Eli in the Hall of Fame. There's not going to be a discussion about it. He'll be a first ballot Hall of Famer with a garbage career and being the quarterback of two teams that win Super Bowls. I don't even want to say that he won 2 Super Bowls because one of those runs was even shaky.
But you think about only the Patriots games, but in the playoffs, I mean,
if you look at his numbers, one of those runs he throws more picks than touchdowns.
All right, but he went into Lambeau and win.
His team went into Lambeau
and
they won.
Either way, I mean,
both those Super Bowls, one of those Super Bowls, they go up against the best offense in the history of football, hold them to 2 touchdowns, and his team barely outscores them against, if you remember, a relatively mundane defense. That 07 Patriots defense is not considered great, and his offense is barely able to win when his defense does something that's unheard of on, by the way, a throw that any coach would say he shouldn't have made. I mean, at the end of the day, if David Tyree doesn't tuck that against the side of his helmet, you're not supposed to throw a football falling down blind on your back heel. I mean, he has to because it's 4th down, but the point is that it's a garbage throw. I'm just saying Eli Manning gets a lot of credit, and Peyton Manning came out last week and was like, enough discussion, he's a Hall of Famer. And all I heard when he said that was it's as if he gets to make the fucking decision.
Oh, no.
He just said, nope, in the Hall of Fame.
And that's the conventional wisdom, and I've been writing about this and pushing back against it. It's ridiculous to even suggest that he wouldn't be a first ballot. Okay, there have been 2 quarterbacks without winning records, and he's retiring at 117 and 117.
Right.
2 guys in the Hall of Fame without winning records. Joe Namath, who set passing records and led the league in attempts, completions and yards.
But
I think
also is the
3
poster
times.
boy for not belonging in.
Yeah.
To be clear, he's also the poster boy when people say that he shouldn't be in.
Oh,
But
yeah.
anyway.
And Sonny Jurgensen's the other one. Also set NFL records for passing yards in a season. Eli's led the league in 3 categories. They were all interceptions. And the thing,
Hold on, I thought he had fumbles in there. Maybe.
Maybe he might.
yeah.
So
And
sorry.
the thing about Joe Namath, I think every Hall of Fame should designate one person as the worst person here. So in order to get in, you have to do better than
Yeah,
him.
Mr. Irrelevant for the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, like old-time baseball guys. I remember they always said, like, Ralph Kiner didn't belong
yeah.
in there. Like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Randy Newman is in there.
Really?
Randy Newman. Like, you have to be better than the guy who had 2 songs. You
Yeah,
get
yeah, right.
Short People, which sucks, and I Love L.A., and that's it. Like, all right, so
Who's Randy Newman? The movie.
I can picture him.
movies.
he did, like, the
movie
Toy
soundtracks.
Story.
I was about to say Toy Story.
No,
That's
he's
how I
actually
knew him.
done a ton of stuff.
I knew him from Toy
And
Story.
the only I remember him because like I never watched those award shows. It was probably like 4 hours into it, and it was like I just clicked on it, and he got up and his acceptance speech for winning a Grammy was thank you guys. I made a ton of music. You guys all suck, basically. And like got off the stage like thanks for nothing.
Oh,
'cause
maybe he should be in the hall just for that. Just for
No, I
anyone,
loved it.
just for anyone who
I
goes
was
up
like-
and blows up the spot at his own spot at a friggin' award show.
So
It's
you want to
all right.
put Kanye West in the Music Hall of Fame? Is that what you're saying? You want Kanye West in there?
Well, listen, let's say Patrick Mahomes wins another Super Bowl in a couple years. Is he just automatically in? Like, if he walks away from the game at the age of 27, we just put him in because he won 2.
Well, that's the
Eli
thing,
won
it's
2.
like-
That's a criteria. If you took Eli's career exactly as it is and replaced 2 things, the
New York.
teams that he beat in those Super Bowls.
Oh, that's true.
Let's say San Diego comes to Gillette in 2007 and Phillip Rivers leads them, and then in 11 it would have been Billy Cundiff successfully
right.
kicks that field
Yep.
goal, and
Or Lee
Baltimore
Evans drops
goes
that ball.
and he beats them.
Right.
I don't think he's a Hall of Famer, but it's who he beat. I think Tom Brady is going to get himself and Eli into the Hall of Fame just by his own excellence.
I agree with that. A couple of years ago on EEI, they maybe it was during one of the Super Bowl weeks. They had Archie Manning on, and they asked him. It was actually a funny comment from him. They asked him like, "Oh, like, does it frustrate you that Brady has more Super Bowls than both your boys combined?" And he says, "I like to focus on the ones that he should have had." And it's just funny because both of those guys won their Super Bowls that like in close contest with Brady. So he'll probably get. I mean, he definitely is getting Eli Manning in, and even Peyton's career to some degree is made better by the fact that he was able once or twice to overcome Tom Brady.
Oh, yeah?
Otherwise, he's just a stats guy.
Well, that's why
that's
I love.
all he is.
That's why I love. Like I had money on Kansas City. That's why I was rooting for them. But also, if Mahomes is what we think he is, like all world. I mean, he's super talented. Say he wins 3 or 4. Well, you know what? Brady went into KC when it was supposed to be Patrick Mahomes' coming out party and came out with the victory, and then won the Super Bowl. So it's like that I hate when people say that Brady's had a soft division or whatever. I mean, he's been in the same conference with Roethlisberger, Peyton Manning, Mahomes now. I mean, every playoff run he's had to play against another quarterback that everybody else agrees is a great quarterback.
But also the AFC East over the course of his career has put lots of second and even third teams into the playoffs. So whenever they say that, they're talking about, yes, there are garbage years where all 3 teams suck, no question. But there's also years where, I mean, are we forgetting that the Jets went to back-to-back AFC championship games? I mean, during a certain, and the thing about Brady is that he's had multiple careers. I mean, if Brady stops in year 10, he's a Hall of Famer.
Right.
If he only plays from year 11 to 20, he's a Hall of Famer.
Oh yeah,
Right.
you can divide his career into 2 and say he's been the best quarterback of all time in each of those 2 halves.
Right. Yep.
But he's had 3 Hall of Fame careers. If you divide it up into even thirds, it's
Right.
the same thing where he's won MVPs in the middle there and passing titles and was the first unanimous MVP. So absolutely. And as far as the division goes, over this period, the AFC East has had, I think, the 3rd best winning percentage against other divisions
Yeah, right.
in football. Like it's that
so
dog won't
overblown.
hunt, you know.
Well,
Yeah.
no, I heard on sports radio last year they were talking about. I think it was the NFC North or something, and they were like, "Oh, even the Lions." I'm like, "The Lions? We're gonna say the Lions are good." The Bears have been garbage for 20 years. They went to 1 Super Bowl in like 06 or
And
whatever.
got
you know what I mean?
smoked.
Oh, and one of the
Yeah,
worst
got
teams to ever
smoked.
make it to a
That's
Super
what I mean.
Bowl.
And, like,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Rex
And
Grossman.
that's why Avi and I always argue about the loss in Indianapolis.
That was the worst
The loss
loss.
that shall not be named.
In my opinion, that's the worst loss.
06?
Because
You
that's
gotta make it stop, yeah.
a coronation afterward. And I mean, Peyton Manning wouldn't have one. That's the thing that kills me is if they don't blow that, Brady wins another one, and then Peyton's whole career is different, and I mean, he doesn't go get one. And I just wish Peyton Manning had never gotten one. Here's what I would love to see the Hall of Fame do.
You wish Eli had all of them in the Manning family, don't you?
That would actually make me laugh. I would think that would be so funny because then Peyton Manning wouldn't be calling his brother a Hall of Fame quarterback. He'd be coming out and going, he's never won. He's only gotten Super Bowls. He's garbage. To me, I think the Hall of Fame should do this, and I know this is radical, but I think you should make it like all pro, one guy a year at any position, just at any position, because then Eli Manning would never go in. He's never going to come up the same year as another guy that he would be in over. That's never going to happen.
Sure. Like the way the Patriots Hall of Fame does.
Yeah, right.
So like
Exactly.
Mike Vrabel hasn't gotten in.
Yeah, right.
You know, he's the defensive end with 10 touchdown catches on
right.
10 attempts.
Right.
But he's not going to get in because he's never the best one. I'm with you. I think that would be a lot better than the Hall of Fame in anything shouldn't be, well, let me see. If you really look at it, you could, look, he's in or out. It's a decision that quick.
Right. Yeah.
And
were you one of the best players? Yes.
Philip Rivers is going to end up in the NFL Hall of Fame.
See, all right, so
that's a joke. I mean, that's crazy.
Like,
you were
you
really good for a long time.
Like,
Okay,
even
you were
now-
never great.
Even now, people talk. Did I hear somebody say like, "Oh, what if Belichick really likes Philip Rivers?" I'm like, this can't be serious anymore, right? like why would Belichick want Philip Rivers when he has Tom Brady? I don't understand this. I don't understand what
Yeah,
people.
I can't speak to that. I
Yeah,
don't know.
and why does somebody? Why at this point, when you've got the system that you've been running for 20 years, you're going to bring in someone who's never played under it before, or consequently, you're Brady. You're going to go play for John Gruden now, because John Gruden's not going to say, "Yeah, we're going to use that Earhart Perkins offense."
Yeah,
I'm
right,
gonna,
right.
you know,
No.
because he thinks he's the smartest man in the
West
world.
Coast
and,
offense, baby.
yeah, and why does Brady want to have to? Because it's like learning a whole language. If you're old enough to remember Drew Bledsoe, over a 4-year span, he had 4 different offensive coordinators, and every one, he said, was like learning a whole new language, different nomenclature, different rules, different reads and calls and whatever. Like, it makes no sense. Given the way that Brady looks as good as he does, he moves the way he does, his arm strength is what
That's
it
the thing.
is.
Arm
You
strength.
ride-
As long as his arm, that's the first to go. I think that's going to be the first to go. I think, and then we'll kind of know. Like, all right, and he'll know. I can't make that 15-yard out anymore. I think that's when he's gonna be like, all right, I'm done. You know what I mean?
I read an article today about the Raiders and their pursuit. And in the first half of the article, they're selling you on why the Raiders make sense for Brady, right? In this paragraph, these wide receivers that nobody would ever talk about are the selling point. And
Tyrell Williams.
Yeah, I mean, names that you're like, this is a joke. It's a joke. And then the second half was saying how Derek Carr is actually worthy of being signed somewhere else. And it says, even in a year where, and it goes on to list all these guys as detractors, as though like Derek Carr did this despite having only these guys. And I'm going, the Raiders don't make sense for Brady because they're not better. They don't have better weapons today than the Patriots do. They're not better. There are situations where, like, I could see Indianapolis making sense for him. I don't know how that makes sense for Indianapolis because they just gave Brissett that contract, but I could see that making sense for Brady. I could see a couple other teams.
For Brady. I don't think anything makes sense for Brady. I think
I'm
Brady
not saying
makes sense
leave.
for everybody.
Right.
Basically, anybody who needs a quarterback, I would sign Tom Brady, no problem.
Well, except that, like,
No,
I've seen
no.
the Giants mentioned, and that's funny because
Well, the Giants,
so
no,
then
they
they got to
have a
start all
rookie
over
quarterback.
again. Like,
No,
okay,
no.
so let's
Not the
get this guy
Giants.
for 2 years, go away from our young guy, and then what? Hope to get another young guy at some
not
point?
somebody with a young quarterback like that. But 2 years right now, does Belichick take for the next 2 years? Brady or Garoppolo right now? What do you think?
I think Brady.
I think so,
I
too.
think we know more about him. We know how dependable he is.
In 2 years, Jimmy's going to need another contract probably anyway.
Yeah,
So
And we can go sign him.
yeah, I know.
And let us not forget, this team was better than the 2018 team that won the Super Bowl. They were 12-4. They had a better road record. They gave up 100 fewer points on defense than they did the year before. 100 fewer.
Right.
They were inconsistent
This
at the
offense.
receiver spot, and they had no tight end. They had a 38-year-old tight end. Having
Their
said that,
offensive line was terrible. In
Right.
18, it was
Oh, no.
okay. This was so bad.
They missed David Andrews. It improved when Isaiah Wynn came, but Marshall Newhouse, who is one of God's children, and he's not meant to be a starting left tackle
that's
in the
the
NFL.
thing, yeah.
He's a backup right tackle.
Let's get him a job at the courthouse.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. He would be good there because he wouldn't have to move that much, and he was not good at that. So yeah, they had issues with turnover and things like Josh Gordon. getting back onto into the devil's kale or
Yeah.
whatever it is that is plaguing him.
Devil's Kale.
You know, he had
That's tough talk for a meth guy.
Yeah.
Mohamed Sanu comes and catches 10 balls and then gets hurt.
Right.
You know, Dorsett gets concussed and missed one game. He was never the same after that. I think the pieces are there. It needs to be improved, and there's no way you can go into a year with God, who's the tight end I'm flaking out on? Who was just
Ben Watson?
No, the other guy, the seventh rounder from the year before.
Ryan Izzo?
Yeah.
Is it Izzo or the other one?
Yeah,
Whoever.
the,
Terrible.
The
Exactly.
worst blocking tight end I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
There was one point where they had a pitch to James White outside, and the tackle was made by the tight end. It was supposed to be a double team, and he got trucked by. He was half of a double team, and he got thrown into White's legs.
Yeah.
And they missed. Gronk was a shadow of his pass catching self at the end of the year, but he was still blocking like an elite third tackle.
Oh, yeah.
And they lacked that element. And sneaky, a thing that really, really cost them, that I'm big into James Devlin. Jimmy neck roll going down, that affected how they ran the ball. Michel's one of those guys who runs behind a fullback, like Adrian Peterson always has.
Yeah.
And without that, when you had Landon Roberts blocking for him, they were holding it together with duct tape and baling wire, and ultimately it wasn't enough. Still, they were a stop in the final drive by Miami away from having a week off in the playoffs and being one win away from the championship game.
Right.
But our standards are so impossibly high now.
Well, that's the thing.
If they lose a championship game, this is the end of days.
No.
The dead will rise from the grave. The rivers will run backwards.
Every time you argue with somebody, they're like, "Oh, you're just a homer." Like, what is there not to be a homer about? Like, they win basically every game I watch. You know what I mean? Like, I don't. What am I supposed to complain about? They lost to Miami. All right. Well, Tom Brady's been to the Super Bowl every other year in his career, basically. You know what I mean? So it's like,
when I started at EEI, Gary Tangway said I shouldn't belong in the air because I'm just a fanboy and I just root for the team. And I said, okay, since I've been here.
Who?
Yeah, I know.
Who?
Since I had been there, they lost one game. It was on the road at Green Bay and won a Super Bowl.
Yeah, right.
I said, so find me where I've failed to do my due diligence here.
Right.
You want me to bitch about what? They beat Seattle, and to me is the greatest win of this Super Bowl era. That Seattle team
that
was
was incredible.
a wagon. That was a dynasty about to happen, and the Patriots killed it in the nest.
down 10 in the fourth quarter against the defending Super Bowl champ. I mean, that's like, you can't get it more difficult. Actually, no.
The year before had held Peyton Manning, the most prolific, highest scoring offense in NFL history, to 8 points.
Right.
And Brady had 4 touchdown passes to 4 different receivers and a 10-point comeback.
No, and even that, I'm pretty sure that fourth quarter started with a 3rd and 1, and they got dropped for a loss and punted, too. So Seattle had, oh, my God, it was just, that's where it was like, well, Brady, this is where he became Jordan. That game, he became Jordan.
Funny you mention that play, because they got a guy open on a rub route, and someone came up a cornerback and knocked it away at the last minute, recovered on the play. It was Malcolm Butler.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we forget that because of the other,
True,
the legendary, the greatest.
Daron Harpin jumped over the receiver or whatever.
Yeah, the play that didn't make the top 25 in NFL history, by the way, according to the NFL.
Yeah, I saw that.
He had
That
an
was so
interception
stupid.
on the goal line to reboot one dynasty and kill another, and they didn't have it. They didn't even have the comeback against Atlanta. They had a comeback by the Bills.
I hate those lists because then some of them were like whole games. Like some of them are like the top 25 plays, and then one will be like a whole game.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
from a generation where I'm like, nobody cares about that. I've always said about that play. First of all, I feel bad for Pete Carroll. I mean, I don't like Pete Carroll, but I feel bad for him because that's the right call. They have to run the ball twice out of 3 times, and they only have 1 timeout. So you got to throw first. Russell Wilson just does a really shitty job there of making a pre-snap read. At the end of the day, I've always said this before. If that's Brady or Peyton Manning, they tap the side of their helmet. The receiver just turns around and falls into the end zone with the ball into their belly. Because the cornerback's standing 7 yards deep into the end zone.
Right.
So why are you going to run a slant underneath a block when there's no one in front of him? You guys just have to know that. And you got I don't know. That was a funny play to me. But you lost me at Gary Tangway. You said Gary Tangway, and I've been sitting here. You guys are arguing, and I'm going like, Gary Tangway was too funny to me because it was like they finally let him on the radio because he could be the butt of the joke. Like, that was the whole thing. And it's like he didn't get it. And then when he started to figure it out, he got mad. He would just, like, get angry, like, legitimately angry.
No, I think he
like,
got mad because Kirk called him a pedophile or something.
He probably is.
Oh, yeah.
No, I mean, I'm not saying he's actually a pedophile, but he's probably, like, he's a weirdo. Like, that stuff where he used to read. Like, I think he thought, like, listeners are really tuning in to hear me read, like, erotic stuff that I write. No, we're laughing at you. Like, we're laughing at the fact that you're the butt of the joke. And then he would get angry, and I don't know. I never understood. That, to me, was the beginning of the downfall of sports radio, was when Gary Tangway was worthy of a spot on, like, an important drive time. That was
but I completely disagree with that. I mean, I think Kirk and Jerry could make everything entertaining on that morning show. So if they have Gary in and they want to goof on him, it's fine by me.
I wouldn't deign to speak for those guys, but I think that they wanted more than just two guys having a conversation. They wanted someone to push against, you know, whether it was Tangway being a rodeo clown or bringing on, John Tomasi to be like the liberal punching bag,
right.
and, Jerry could go against him, and then Minahan could be in the middle, and it worked. It really did.
Of course, yeah, they did. Speaking of Jerry, why did El Prez let you on this podcast and not Jerry's? 'Cause I hear Jerry talking about this all the time now.
I won't. It's
Should
all.
we be offended that we're not competition to Barstool?
It's all on a case by case thing, and
I'm just messing around.
I'm not saying that I won't end up on Callahan's as a guest or whatever, and I get it. Like, I'm still texting him to say, hey, I've been asked to be on like a thing or a local radio show. Is that cool with you?
Yeah.
And so I don't even question, because they don't
he
tell me to do anything.
Of course.
Like, they don't tell me what to write. They don't edit me. And so when the price is, well, you know what, let's not do that. Do this other thing. I don't even.
Yeah. No. I heard Jerry talking about. I've heard Kirk talk about it on his podcast too. Like, Kirk's always like, Dave doesn't know what the fuck's going on. What does it matter what he does? They're not competition.
That's
blah,
Kirk's
blah.
shtick.
It's a half $1 billion company, and it's me texting a guy that I've been working with for 16 years to say, hey, can I do this thing?
Right.
So that's cool to me.
And if he's super busy and because he's on CNBC or whatever, doesn't have time
Tucker
to respond.
Carlson.
Yeah, exactly.
Wait, was he on with Tucker? Is that what happened?
Portnoy's on with Tucker all the time.
He was on Fox, I think, Sunday morning with the Super Bowl Sunday morning. So
I just remember
only in America, man.
I remember seeing the thing where, like, him and that crazy actor that was on
Michael Rappaport.
Yeah, Michael Rappaport. What was the show he was on? The TV show about, like, it was like something dead. No, it was with the guy from Deadwood. It was like with the Western type. I don't know. He was great on that show.
Deadwood was a Western show.
Yeah, but it was the same actor. I don't know. It was great.
I was
he was
totally
great on that
unaware
show.
of him, and he had his own sitcom for a while. It was one of those
it wasn't funny.
blasting laugh track things,
yeah.
Like the wacky, hey, let's have a surprise birthday party.
Yeah.
Oh, no, he's going to find out about it. And I know he had Meghan Markle as his love interest in one episode.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, like he had a crush on her or something. And I didn't know it until he posted about it, but that was a bad fit from the beginning.
I
It
saw-
was
I
only
just
a
remember,
matter
like,
of time before that.
I just remember the video of the two of them yelling at each other, like separate videos. I don't know. I didn't get the whole thing.
He came out and said that all stoolies are idiots. Like, how?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Right, right.
Criticize
It's
me,
your audience.
criticize my opinions,
Of
whatever.
course.
But and that's the thing, by the way, that goes throughout Boston sports media. I can tell you this, as someone who's been inside there, the contempt for the audience is like universal almost.
I could see that too.
And I'd be there sitting there, and we had a window that overlooked the Mass Pike, and people would be like talking about they're idiots or they're racists or they hate everything and they don't know what they're talking about. I'm like, I don't know. I look out and I see people just going to and from their jobs.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
They want to be entertained. They like these teams. They don't hate everything the way you do. They're not furious that Belichick is mean at his press conferences.
I
In
love
fact,
that.
we
I think
love
it's
it.
hilarious.
It's
hilarious.
fantastic.
No, of course. Yeah.
I mean, I especially like it because when I ask them a question, it's usually like,
Happy birthday, Jay.
oh, no. And I'll ask him a question, and it's like, all right, can you wrap this up, Bill? Blah, 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 Chatty Cathy. Come on, they're serving pizza in the next room. Cut the string, But
I loved when he said after the last game, he's like, the guy was like, what do you have to say to your fans that have been through thick and thin with you? He's like, I don't feel like there's been a lot of thin around here. He's right, man.
Yeah.
He's right.
And that was a woman. I'm convinced, having sat in some of those, that it's like it's like a dare that they make people do, or they're goofing on them. Like they'll send someone who doesn't know what they're walking into and give them this loaded question to ask.
Yeah, right.
It's like, every restaurant, you go get the table stretcher. Go ask the chef for the cheese straightener or whatever. Like, what? I think they're just... I think that woman got messed with. Yeah, ask him about thick and thin and watch his reaction.
I just love the answer. Dave, have you seen the Barstool the pizza reviews? Have you seen that?
Oh, you take 2
Do you
bites.
like that?
One bite.
One bite review.
Do you like that review?
No, and then
Taking over the world.
Oh,
man.
everybody
is it? It's
watches.
doing well.
Are
I
you
love
serious?
pizza.
Huge. It's
The pizza review is?
Yeah, but what do you mean pizza?
I
That's
first
how
saw it-
most people get introduced to Barstool.
I first saw it when they reviewed a place in Jersey that's like right near my wife's Star Tavern, and I think the place is dope. It's
so
awesome.
If he reviews a place, though, it like changes that restaurant. That
Really?
pizza place, yeah. So like if he picks a place and goes to them and they're like, in Boston, it'll be like mobbed for forever, unless they're terrible.
Yeah.
He went to one in the
Does
South.
he shit on some of them?
No, I mean, I
haven't seen
I've
any.
only seen a
really.
couple. And
Only
he's
seen
like,
Star Taverns.
No, but he'll have guests like the new movie that comes out. He'll have like those actors on and stuff, and
he's a
it's-
Boston guy too, I think.
No, I know he's a North Shore guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, you guys are killing Jerry over here. Like with
Sorry,
this,
I just want to know about the
his
TV
face-
review.
What? No,
wanna know
let's
the
kill me.
TV
I think it's
No,
I just wanted to know about the.
it's all part of the empire.
I
a
just
big
wanted to
part.
know about the pizza review thing because I saw that, and when they did the one in Star, I mean, obviously they said it was amazing because Star Tavern's amazing. But then I saw like someplace in Boston. I think it was like, if I remember, I watched like 30 seconds of the clip. It was like he used to live in that neighborhood or something. So I guess I didn't get in context where the pizza thing, and I didn't realize that's a big segment for them.
He did. Well, he did
Oh,
Caserta's in Providence.
Do you ever get to do them?
No. I mean, he did down in New York.
York, yeah,
You know
yeah.
what I mean? I go down there once in a while.
Do you go down there? I was going to ask you about that.
Once in a while, but when I go, the last time I was there, I said, you know what? I'm Creed from Dunder Mifflin. I'm the old weirdo, and I don't really know who anyone is, and
Yeah,
you don't
right.
know what I do or
Right.
whatever. So, I'm
You're
happy
one of
to
the
work.
first four.
Yeah,
Isn't
no,
that kind of? Aren't you a big deal around there?
Yeah, I think they know who I am, but everyone's got they're working in an office every day. It's more of a serious environment than you would think.
Yeah, Sure. right.
Because they do a ton of content out of there, but it's people head down doing work.
Yeah,
And
there's cubes.
yeah, I work from home, and I'll go down there just to touch base once in a while. But I think I'm more valuable being here. Like I haven't been to any of these Super Bowl parties,
Right.
and part of that is I'm gifted with self-awareness. I get I'm like a middle-aged guy that doesn't need to be hanging out, wearing my members only jacket and my
Yeah, right.
pleated khakis with a phone outside. Hey, kids,
Dude,
what's
think about
that?
that.
What's-
would make it a great segment in and of itself. And I would do anything if I were you to go to the Super Bowl party.
Yeah, I mean, look.
What if Brady was there?
Well, the 3 years since I've been back, I've been back 4 years, and there was this one, which is the outlier. The other three, when the Patriots were there, they just said directly, we need you there driving content. There's Patriots news going all the time. Like, cool, that's fine with me. And I
Right.
mean, whatever. I didn't want to leave my wife at home in the dead of winter. But if they asked me to help content, I'd do it. But if they're content with me, just keep rolling out of bed and sit on my laptop with
Yes,
a cup of
that type of-
coffee and whatever. You've got your blue-collar jobs, your white-collar jobs. I consider mine to be a no-pants job.
Yeah.
Like, I could just Porky Pig it all
Right,
day long.
right.
I mean, for the record, I do, in fact, wear pants. But
Sweatpants.
I mean, I take it as a blessing. I get the coolest job I could ever imagine. So I don't sit there and go, yeah, but what I really want to be doing is rubbing elbows with, Boomer Esiason on Radio Row or whatever.
Right. Well, you could see. I think I saw some video. Somebody did a bed check of all the Barstool rooms. It was like 10 or 10:30.
Oh, I saw that.
You saw that? I think Minahan was the only one in bed. He was the only one. It was like 10 o'clock over there. He does all, everybody's out partying and except for
Yeah,
Kirk.
and Big Cat just was passing notes underneath the door. That was really fun. I just told him to go fuck off or whatever. That was great. And then I found out that they had hot tubs in their rooms. But
Yeah, I know.
that's one of those things, like a hot tub. Like, oh my gosh, what a luxury! And then you're sitting in it for 10 minutes and you go, what do I have?
I'd
this
rather be
thing
at home
for?
with my family.
Yeah, bingo. It's like, if you ever been to like a home show. When I first bought a house, went to the home show and I said, this is just the hot tub show. Like, what? Why are they selling all these things? How many do you need in a lifetime? Well, the hotel looked great. I'm sure they had a blast, but they were working. And EEI sent me to the one in Phoenix. And midweek, I went from the nice hotel to they could only get a reservation for so many days. So they sent me to, it looked like the one where Jesse Pinkman was doing crack with when the prostitute died on him and
Oh,
stuff.
yeah,
No, that was meth. You're doing it all.
Was he
up.
doing?
Jesse
Well, I
Pinkman's
know they were
cooking and
cooking meth,
selling
but did he take a? Yeah, okay,
I thought so.
You're
Yeah.
probably right, but I mean,
Yeah.
believe me, I know he was making the blue stuff.
But yeah, when Walter
yeah.
White comes in and lets his girlfriend die,
Yeah.
that episode there,
And
that
I
was
was
powerful
still
stuff.
down there in Phoenix. I was trying to figure out what exactly am I here for, aside from doing the Radio Row, which was cool because
Right.
Christy Teigen walked by and
Oh,
we're in
yeah?
the middle of a sentence and she just like glowed.
She's one I don't
She's
get.
luminous and she just like hovered above the ground and it was amazing. But Michael Chiklis came by.
Oh yeah, the Shield.
Vic Mackey
fan.
from the Shield,
Sorry,
and I
I was a
couldn't
big
talk to him. I was in mid-sentence. I'm like, oh my God, this Vic Mackey. But you know, part of the time I said, you know what I'm here to do? I think I should go to the parties and write about them.
Yeah.
So like I went to the media party and there was like Skip Bayless was there and John Clayton was there and like I just got drunk with Ben Volin and you know and was hungover the next day with Ben Volin. We didn't, not that we spent the night, but
Jesus, wait, what are you telling us here?
no, just we were lined up for breakfast the next day going, oh man, that was nuts. But anyway, so it was fun, but it's still work.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
you're there trying to have fun and present the fun in a way that people can consume it. But that in of itself is work. You know, it's not just
Yeah, when you go
slapping
to
stuff
events
together.
like that, it's like you gotta content, because it's stuff you're not gonna get sitting at your house in your underwear.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like you got to do something while you're there. So
Media day, you want to ask a question that gets some traction or whatever, and I'm
Right.
there by myself. And my brother calls and he goes, "So, what kind of golf courses have you played?" I'm like, "Dude, you think I'm sitting?
Right.
Think I brought my clubs?"
yeah, right.
Like I'm sitting on a bus going to some like press conference thing.
Yeah.
Although it was fun because we had done a video with Gronk, like a couple of years earlier, this figure skating video, and I'm in this scrum of people around his podium at the hotel press availability, and there are all these just a-holes with like cameras and you're blocking my way, move back, what are you doing there? Like who are you, whatever. And I go off to the side and Gronk in the middle of someone's question goes, "Hey Jerry, what's going on, man? Hey, we gotta go figure skating again. That was a blast." I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely, Rob, let's do it." And that was 5 years ago. Barstool was a fraction of what it is today,
Yeah, of
even
course,
then.
yeah, right.
So now we're big enough to get banned.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah. If you went down there with Barstool, you can't even go on Radio Row. So what does it matter?
You gotta go in
Cause
incognito.
trouble.
It's friggin' hilarious. And then like so, Portnoy gets hauled out of the Super Bowl. We're not allowed on Media Row or any of that
Why?
crap. A few months later, being critical of Roger Goodell, whose birth was the punishment for the sins of mankind.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Oh, looking into his eyes, staring into Satan's butthole, and not enough bad things can happen to him. But a few months later, I'm at the White House. Jerry Thornton, okay, and what organization with? Barstool Sports. Okay, well, you're welcome. I'm walking past the Secret Service.
Yeah, right.
Like the nuclear codes are on the ground, and I'm traipsing around there. And I'm hanging with like Minahan and Callahan, and guys inside these ropes are like, "Barstool, old balls, Jerry, hey,
Yeah,
can
yeah,
we take
yeah.
a picture?" I'm like, "I got to leave, guys. I got to go over here.
Yeah,
You know, bigger deal than you are." But yeah, I'm like, this is the White House. That's where JFK and Bobby Kennedy were double teaming Marilyn Monroe, and I'm here.
Yeah.
You know,
You made it, right?
that was
the
that.
moment.
I know.
So I saw you post something on Facebook the other day. I think it was right after Barstool's like sale of the like whatever the percentage, the investment, was announced. And I saw you posted something about your wife believing in you. And for me, I mean, obviously I identify with that very much. So I'm sure Dave does too. And then also, I follow you enough on Facebook to see, and I've sent you messages about this before. I've always been interested in getting to see like sort of your family life and the way that. I remember when your son left for the military, and then when he'd be gone for stretches at a time, and you guys went from being a 4-person family at home to now there's only 3 at the house. And now, are you an empty nester now?
Yeah, both kids are in college.
I thought so.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's a cool side. Like to me, I look at you and I go, like, here's this guy who's just a huge sports fan like the rest of us, and you've managed to make yourself a part of the story. And then getting to see that, like, you'd still rather be at home with this family and this wife that supported you than be at the Super Bowl. I want to get to that point. Right now, I'm still at like I'd rather be at the Super Bowl, but I don't know. Maybe I'd have to get there first before I wanted to turn it down.
I guess I managed to touch that Blarney Stone, and it was great. Hey, I've seen it. I've been to a Super Bowl. Here's a picture of me or whatever. But ultimately, I've got it nice at home. It doesn't mean every guy that wants to go travel hates his home life. I'm not saying that, but it's just, and she's been saying, "Oh, you really ought to go to the Super Bowl." I'm like, "You really want me out of the house that
Maybe
bad?"
she wants you to take her. Maybe she wants you to take her.
Yeah, I don't know that we need to be hanging out there, but she was she was great because there were times where I had chances to make easy money. And she discouraged that and said, "No, I'll keep with the writing, keep with the comedy. That might turn into something. That's rare." I had a chance through the court system to do paid details. What other states they call like a flag guy. Around here you pay a ton of money to someone who's in law enforcement to stand there for 4 hours making just milling cash for doing nothing. And I said, I can get on that through some connections. And she said, I don't want my husband standing next to a ditch watching other people work. Like, you should entertain people. I go, what if that never turns into something? She goes, then at least you'll be doing what you should be doing.
She likes seeing you happy.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, all right, I appreciate it. And I say I don't do anything for money that doesn't involve me just expressing myself creatively, whether it's stand-up or writing or books or whatever.
I love this woman.
Yeah, she seems cool, man. She
Oh,
seems
she is. Oh, believe me, I outkick my coverage. Believe me, I know that. I mean, we go places together. It looks like a kidnapping in progress. We go to the mall. People are checking their phones for Amber Alerts. Like, tell me you're safe, miss. Blink SOS with your eyes. I will get help right now. But yeah, no, she's cool, and she puts up with a lot. Believe me. When Barstool was still out of Boston.
I was going to say, when it was early on it, that's when it was probably, I'm going to write for free and I'm going to do all this stuff. And then, I'm sure it was content, right? As
it was
much
when
as
I could, and that was a couple, 3 times a day maybe.
Right.
But when they started having parties, and, again, I'm being self-aware, and Dave's inviting me to come, and I'm like, it might be weird, No, you should come. So I came and met a bunch of people that are still my friends and always will be. It was a cool community of people that just gathered around this weird little small website.
Right.
And women in their late 20s and early 30s who became friends, and that was a little bit weird for my wife when I go to the Halloween party. And it was, let's see, there was sexy cowgirl, there was slutty waitress, there was sexy
J-Lo, Shakira,
cop or whatever. Yeah, exactly.
Whatever you're gonna be, make it.
Oh my
sexy,
God,
yeah.
the Mardi Gras party we had in 2008. So we're talking less than 2 weeks after the Pats had lost to the Giants, and they had models and painted on shirts, like Sports Illustrated swimsuit. And me and a guy, just a reader of the site, we just commiserated in a corner for 2 hours, just talking nose to nose, going, God, I can't believe they lost that game. A friggin' David Tyree, whatever. And at one point he goes, you realize there's gorgeous naked women walking around here. I go, yeah, I'll never enjoy anything ever again. Might have meant something to me 10 days ago, not now. And still haven't gotten over that.
No, of course.
But so she's put up with a lot of shit, and you just try to reward her by saying, let's.
Do you hone your material on her? Will you try? Hey, what do you think?
No,
Really?
she's got her thing. She's into music and theater and.
I'll have
and
speeches
singing.
that I work out, I'll be having some difficult employee, and I do it in the shower, and I'll usually do it when there's no one around. So I'm like, that's what. And then she'll walk in, who are you talking to? And I'm standing there naked, sopping wet.
Is she a good judge of your material? Because when I try my stuff on my wife, I realize what a moron I sound.
I don't get it.
You know what I mean? Oh yeah. She catches me watching Step Brothers for the 20th time. She's like, really?
Hilarious movie, though.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, brother, we're out there. That's the one. She's like, not again.
That's a go-to.
That one didn't work on me either, to be honest. What is your stand-up about?
When I got out of it for a little bit when we had kids, and when I got back into it, I said, you know what? I'm going to rewrite it all, and I'm going to do it on who I am. If a guy, kind of a nerdy-looking guy in his 40s with a domineering mother-in-law and kids that are smarter than him and a wife that's better than him, if I can't make that funny, then I'm not cut out for this. So it just sort of became semi-biographical, but there's sports in there, and there's just it's all monologue. I'm not doing impressions. I did a lot of that in the early days, and it was sitcom impressions and commercials, jokes, or whatever, because that was my worldview. And it's when I started having life experiences. When I went to buy an engagement ring, I turned that into a 2-minute bit, and it always went over, and then it just kept expanding. So 30 minutes will all be about my life and Tom Brady and Belichick, and probably some of the shit I've said here right now.
I was going to say, you're working on
love it,
material
yeah.
today, aren't you?
Yeah, exactly.
I could see where you'd be very funny.
Yeah, well, thank you. I worked on something, actually, when they had the female official in the Patriots game last year in the playoffs. And this one is like controversial. You talk about how the world has changed.
Yeah.
I've done this thing. I said, hey, I think they thought people wouldn't support that, or fans are too traditional. I'm like, no, I'm cool. I think I'm all about a woman official. I mean, as long as she's getting paid 78% of what the men are getting paid. And crowds go like, ooh. I'm like, that's where we're drawing the line.
I like that.
Like they turn on me, like, and then you turn that into a bit. But when I got to a point where if a joke fails, that I'm still cool with it. I had a friend one time say, you had that one joke that didn't work, and you just went, yeah, that's okay. The crowd last night liked it. You didn't. I'm not. It's a buffet. I'm not cooking stuff to order. And I improvised that. But he said that was the best moment you've had because it was natural. And I'm like, cool. That's what I'm going to be on stage. I'm not going to worry about failing because I know I got this. And so now I just do it for fun. If I have a weekend where I'm not doing a show, great. If I have one, like February 22nd at Victory Point in Marina Bay, it's a blast. It's a great room, and I have fun, and I only do it because I enjoy it. I only work with people I like to work with, and it's the best of all possible worlds.
What are your who are your influences comically?
Bill Cosby.
No, that's only in my love life.
I told Jerry Callahan. I told
Got
you.
that barbecue sauce to get you all huggy buggy. Do you know the episode I'm talking about?
No.
He has an episode of his show where he was serving barbecue sauce that made everybody horny.
Whoa.
I'm not kidding you. The clip is on YouTube, and
You're
it's
to find that.
they did it with dark music, and it's the most sinister thing in the world. But what did Callahan say?
I told Jerry Callahan, like very casually, that he reminded me a lot of Bill O'Reilly. And what I meant was, I don't agree with any of your opinions, but I love listening to you express them. Sure. But I forgot about how O'Reilly's sort of career has gone most recently. And when I said it in real time, he just goes, "Oh." And then he had to further record.
Work things out for themselves.
What is this?
Cosby.
It's my barbecue sauce.
What are we listening to?
I feel like
You're part.
My barbecue sauce. Haven't you ever noticed that people have some?
I hear barbecue sauce.
I hear the dark.
What have you
After a while,
done?
when it kicks in, they get all huggy buggy. I'm dead serious. Haven't you ever noticed that after one of my barbecues and they have the sauce, people want to get right home? Let me tell you something.
The sound quality is so
I had a
garbage
cup
on
of
this.
it up on the night
After you
table.
know, it's like just.
It's so dark looking back at what we know now.
So
Oh
the
my
thing about
God.
Cosby is like when he was at his height, that was his prime raping time. Like that's like if you
Yes.
look at it, this isn't like after the fact or like this. No, this is like the Bill Cosby that we loved and rooted for. That guy was raping women.
Oh, yeah. How about the pluperfect example of a guy whose inner voice is different than his outer voice? He was America's most beloved dad, ripping on them kids for wearing the baggy clothes and using the bad language or whatever. And meanwhile, he was a fucking monster of the first order. But then you got other people that, everyone says they're vulgar and crass, but they're
fine.
decent
Yeah.
people who treat everybody well. And then, there's been reports of like women with daytime talk shows who are supposedly the nicest people in the world and they're nightmares to work for.
Yeah.
Here's
Ellen.
Rosie.
Of course.
I think.
Yeah, right.
Like Jay Leno is a really well-respected guy, and I'm sure he is a good guy, but he hired Helen Mushnick when they did an HBO movie about Leno and Letterman. She was played by Kathy Bates, and she would make all these demands for him to do an appearance. Okay, he has to have this, and the temperature has to be that, and the limo that's going to pick him up has to blah, 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 blah. And then he would show up, and they'd say, okay, we have all those things you asked for. And he'd go, oh, that's Helen. She goes overboard. Thanks a lot. You know, really. And then it took years for people to realize, but wait, he got everything he wanted.
Yeah, right.
Right.
And he comes out as the good guy, and she comes out as the vicious bitch,
Of
but all
course.
she's doing is his bidding.
Yeah.
And so, like, everybody really should have a Helen Mushnick. I'm sure that Cosby had a million of them who let
right.
them recruit chicks, but he seemed like the good guy or whatever.
Yeah, Weinstein
Who-
with his secretary, you know what I mean? Matt Lauer's secretary, all these people.
So
Oh,
how long?
yeah, well,
I
Epstein,
thought
that
Cosby
woman
was
that worked
Yeah, of course.
for him. And
Yeah.
I thought Fat Albert was brilliant, but like other than that, I never thought of stand-up. The chocolate cake.
No, I never
it's like,
got it.
Yeah. So,
Oh,
you know,
45-minute bits that have one punchline and a
Yeah.
couple of laughs in between. Like when I was a kid, I listened to his albums. George Carlin, I loved. He was like, and he was a guy who evolved in this way where he was sharper and angrier, but still brilliant and funny.
Yeah.
Like he could do a bit about how we went from soldiers that come back like mentally, damaged from the war. We went from shell shock to battle fatigue to post-traumatic stress disorder, and it's both funny and there's a point that it's teaching you, and that's good comedy. But I love guys who just do fucking one-liners. Jim Gaffigan can do
Jim Gaffigan's so funny.
12 minutes about shellfish.
And ketchup packets.
And open for the Pope. He opened for the Pope. That's how clean he is. But I love dirty. Joe Rogan was a Boston guy. He made it huge just when I was getting onto the Boston scene. But I mean, he did a bit about Corky from Life Goes On, getting the show getting canceled. That horrified audiences, and we'd be in the back of Nick's just in tears about it. And he just the balls of a brass monkey to do that kind of material and have it be funny and not care about the fallout and the consequences. So, if I had to pick one, I might say Dennis Miller.
Dennis Miller, yeah.
I just liked his stand-up. Like,
What about on Monday Night
I
Football?
was about to say,
I
did you
liked
mean
him.
stand-up or on Monday Night Football?
I liked him on Monday Night Football too, and
Well,
I
he brought
get
something
why he
else.
wasn't for everybody. But
Right.
it just like his first game was the Hall of Fame game, and he said, I think he opened with, "It's great to be here between the Tigris and the Euphrates of football." 3 seconds later, I felt, oh, I get it. Fertile Crescent. This is where it began. All right, cool. One time he said, Dick Vermeil cries like Sylvia Plath being pepper sprayed. I had to Google search Sylvia
Sylvia
Plath.
Plath, yeah.
She was a poet who killed herself.
Suicide.
Oh,
yeah.
Jesus.
A sad poet. And
Yeah.
I go, I like that, but I guess, and then quickly they reined him in and
Yeah,
just
well,
made
it's like
him
you put a
say-
comedian in the booth. Like, I mean, that's what he's there for, isn't it? You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
and I get he was an acquired taste, but if I'm on an island of one on that, I'm on an island of one. Still like him better than Booger McFarlane. So
Yeah.
you know.
You know what I liked about Dennis Miller on Monday Night Football? I liked that at some point he got that, like, all right, this thing's not going to last more than a season.
Oh, yeah.
These people, there's just people that think that this real highbrow stuff I do is annoying. I'm going to do it. Like, I'm going to do it. Like, there were times where, like, the joke became that he was doing it. That's when I thought he was funny. Like, then I was like, all right, this is funny that you get that these obscure-ass references aren't for who your audience is. And now the joke is on the idiots that thought this would work. Like, you're like,
Yeah.
they're paying me. Like, I'm going to keep making these ridiculous statements. And I'm going to get that, like, this is awkward as hell for all of us, and that my co-hosts are ripping me in the media. Like, I don't care. I'm
Yeah.
here, and I'm getting paid.
And you could tell he was getting notes from the producer saying, okay, you got to stop the run, and you got to be able to run the ball, especially in the best way to stop Tom Brady is to keep him on the sidelines. And he's just sitting there going, nope, I'm going to work in 007 references or
Yeah,
whatever.
of course, yeah.
Right? It's like you hired me.
Yeah.
Like, if you hired me, let me do me. If you want somebody else, hire them.
I saw an old bit of his a while ago, and I'll do it real quick, but how to tell if your son is gay. You show him the Francois Truffaut film Boy on a Dolphin, and the scene where Sophia Loren climbs out of the water and she's soaking wet. If your son sees that and he wants to fuck the boat captain, he's gay. so cool. And I looked up that video, just because I like stuff. You don't want stuff so far out of over the audience's head that you're just talking to yourself.
Yeah, right.
But I like it being I like to reach up a little bit for the stuff that gets to me. I don't try to reach that level of doing stand up. I try to do a lot of stuff about the South Shore.
Okay.
Because
yeah.
again, talk about knowing my worldview.
And the people from the South Shore probably love the shit out of that
Yeah.
stuff. They're like, oh, totally, that's us. That's us.
I have some Hanover-specific stuff that if I cross over the town line is useless, but there's a club in Hanover that I can just bang it out about
there you go.
local guys and the windmill that cost $1 million that doesn't work. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to keep milking that for as long as I can.
Nice.
What
I
about
like it.
hecklers? You got any hecklers at any of these?
Yeah, no, that's a common question, and you rarely ever see it.
Right.
People are just nice. People are out for a
they're
night of
there.
entertainment.
Of course, yeah.
Maybe it's different in different clubs. I'm happy to work suburban rooms. I love a good fundraiser for like a sports league
of
or
course,
whatever.
yeah, right.
In a Knights of Columbus Hall, you know who those people are. I have a great heckler story that I've been dying to tell people. For a while there, Michael Douglas's brother, so Kirk Douglas's kid, Eric Douglas, I think he ended up dying of overdose or whatever, but he was trying to stand up. And I worked like Nick's Comedy Stop with him a couple times. And I remember the host one time going, I know I said I'd bring you up next, but I got to bring up fucking Eric Douglas. So I'll bring you up after him, but get a fire extinguisher because he's going to set fire to this place. He's so bad. And he's like reading his notes and stuff and
How
whatever.
much
It's just a
time do I have?
disaster. So he's the story goes that he was getting heckled by somebody, and he pulled the worst thing you can say in my world, which is, "Don't you know who I am?"
Oh, God.
He said, "Hey, you don't talk to me like that. I'm Kirk Douglas's son." So the guy stood up and said, "I'm Kirk Douglas's son." Someone else stood up, "I'm Kirk Douglas's son." Someone else, "I'm Kirk Douglas." So it became this mass spontaneous heckle. And that's my favorite story of all time.
I was at Nick's Comedy Stop one time and saw a guy come out, and apparently it was his first time doing stand-up, and he felt the need to lead off with that. He's like, "This is my first time doing stand-up." And then his first joke, like there was nothing that could be funny about it at all, but everyone was being nice, so no one made fun of him at all, and it bombed. And then he commented on that no one was laughing. And then he started to sort of I think his backup plan was if people were being a little bit negative, he was then going to be combative, but no one was saying a word. So he started being combative, but there was no one there. We all watched for 5 or 6 minutes as this person was somewhere between humiliating and combative, and no one said a damn word. And it got to the point where the joke was that no one's going to react. So at that point, the guy would make jokes and the whole room just stayed quiet. And it was hilarious. As soon as he left, the whole place erupted. It was amazing.
So he just did it to himself. He was
he-
like a monk setting himself on fire.
Oh, so it was like he went up there and thought, if the first joke's not funny, someone's critical, combat them. And no one was, and they gave him no reaction. And then he just started being like, "You guys don't even think I'm funny." Oh, yeah, you don't think I'm... And it was like, no one's reacting at all to you. It was amazing.
Oh, that's so
I hope
much
he tried
fun.
it again.
It's
I hope
so
he
much
tried it
fun
again.
to watch somebody really go down hard.
it
to
was
really,
amazing. It was incredible.
really fall hard.
If they're
man.
a professional. If they're amateurs, I always give them credit for, at least you tried, buddy.
Actually,
But-
Corey's brother is a stand-up comic. And I've seen him
Kind
a couple
of.
times. Well, yeah, now he's got a kid and he's
got a
married, and he
job.
doesn't do it as much as he should. But I saw him a couple times. He was hilarious. He was
Yeah.
funny.
Oh, he's pretty funny. You can find him on YouTube. Timmy
Yeah.
O'Leary.
He used to do a lot of stuff about his
Okay.
kid and stuff like that.
It's tough to get through that. You got to work a lot of really crappy rooms in Chinese restaurants.
That's
and
where
all
I
this
saw. I
stuff.
saw him at a Chinese
Chinese
restaurant. I
restaurant,
drank
yeah,
4
that's
Mai
right.
Tais and lost my glasses. It was rough. True
I remember
story.
I did a mini tour of ski areas in Vermont. We're in this crowded ski bar, and there was a little stage that was coming out of the balcony and stuff, and there were people sitting up there and people down there. It was like Mr. Spock's 5D chess set, and it was just a hell room, and no one was listening. And you get through that, and then you get to a point where you just go, okay, you know what? I survived that. I can handle other things, but it's hard. I mean, we all see that guy who's still new, and if one falls flat, it's a snake eating its tail.
Yeah,
Just
of
one
course.
thing leads to another, and those times are so special. So fun.
Doing stand-up is kind of when it comes to how you can't not take it personal is like being a chef and owning the restaurant. People tell you well, don't take it personal. It's like, well, no, it's very personal. They actually hate what I do. It's the same thing. It's like no one can be like, well, they just didn't think you were funny. Don't take it personal. No, this is me.
Oh yeah.
I worked
I
on
mean, you
this.
put your heart and soul into a restaurant, from what's on the plate to what the environment is to how the service is or whatever. And have you seen the Jon Favreau movie Chef?
Yeah.
I have not.
It's
You
brilliant.
haven't?
It's about a
No.
food truck. Yeah, it's cool.
about
Yeah.
a food truck?
Well, he starts off. He's a restaurant, a chef in a 5-star restaurant, and he gets a bad review, and the critic is there, and he lays him out verbally. His career goes up in flames. He gets a food truck, and he starts kind of reconnecting with what made him want to get into food in the first place. And he made it as like a metaphor for him making Marvel movies. And I'm the biggest superhero movie nerd in the world.
All right.
And the job he did on the Iron Man films is just epic. And Mandalorian is fantastic. But he was working for this giant conglomerate, and he just went back to making this little indie movie, and it's all relates. But it's a great movie. The music in it's awesome.
Music's great, yeah. It's like the Wu-Tang Clan, lots of samples, like the original jazz tracks for that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And then, so like, I watched that and I was in pain watching it because I was like, you know, it's like the conflict between Dustin Hoffman's character, he's the owner, and, you know, he's like, and you saw the movie?
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah.
So like the Dustin Hoffman's character and then Jon Favreau. So Jon Favreau's the creative chef and then gets like shredded up and his feelings are hurt. And then Dustin Hoffman's like, the Stones, they wouldn't pay Police Satisfaction. They'd want their money back. And I'm like, you know, so you make rosemary chicken, 10,000 of them, you know, and it's like, you kind of lose your soul a little bit, but then that's what keeps the lights on.
Yeah,
you know?
right.
And then there's, you know, people forget that the point of the restaurant, like, it's cool to be creative and do fun stuff, and that's maybe what drives us. It's what drives all of us. But at the same time, there's also, like, it is a business, right? So it's the same thing, right? If people show up to Sweet Basil and there's no rosemary chicken, you're failing at the thing that you're supposed to do. No different than, like, if tomorrow you decide, like, to Howard Stern it, and you're just like, fuck this guy, I'm over Jerry Thornton, and I'm going to start writing like this other guy. Well, all these people that followed you, that they contributed to what you are, and they were the ones. You need them reading you in order for you to be successful. You've disappointed them. And that was the part I also was with. That was that, like, Favreau, it's like, you've got this restaurant. See, he lost me on the whole. He just walks into the kitchen. I thought it was a good movie. But he just walks in and goes, I need all the Cambros. And I'm like, that's like a brand. Like, you just named, like, that would be like someone walking in and going, all containers. I need them now. I'm like, I just didn't get it. Have you seen the
It
movie
would never
Burnt?
occur to me that an actual chef would find the factual inaccuracies or whatever.
Well,
You
it was
know what I
just
mean?
trying to. It was like, if he had just said something like, because have you seen by any chance the derivative show that he has now on Netflix called The Chef Show?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, I've
and it's
watched
pretty
it.
good because I
Yep.
think Roy Choi is pretty good. But Favreau is insufferable on it because he apparently, as part of the show, paid Roy Choi a bunch of money to teach him, like, just enough to get by on the show. And then he kept taking cooking lessons. And it's lost on him that, like, you're not a guy, like, going down the journey to doing what we've all done at some point. You're a guy who some other guy is being paid money to, like, sort of make you feel like good about yourself. So he brings other people on the show, like Seth Rogen was on the show. And Seth Rogen was funny and cool. And Favreau's being like, yeah, he showed me how to do this thing. And he's being all foofy about it. And I'm like, Brody, you would melt the second you got on a line. Like, and he's talking like he cooks for a living. It's annoying.
Oh, it's so funny when an expert sees a movie in his discipline or whatever. I remember Field of Dreams, me going, wait a minute, Shoeless Joe Jackson batted left and throw right, and Ray Liotta throws left and bats right, which is almost hard. And there wasn't a catcher in the Black Sox scandal. That was Ray Schock, who's in the Hall of Fame. He was, and I go, wait a minute, they're ghosts coming out of a cornfield. Get the fuck over yourself. You know what I mean? Slow your roll there, sport. Okay, all right. You know,
Have you seen the movie Burnt? Either one of you guys?
No.
That's got who's the guy, the heartthrob these days? He's
Cooper?
Bradley Cooper. That's, in my opinion, the best movie about food. He's like a guy who drugs, alcohol. He had Michelin stars, and he, like, lost it. It's not based in truth or anything. I mean, it's based in truth, but not on one person's life. And then he, like, resurfaces just with the goal of going and getting another Michelin star. And it's actually, like, to me, the most factually based movie and an amazing human story. Like, it's not even about this thing, it's about this thing, and it's a good movie.
Oh,
Burnt,
so
if you
that's
get a
cool.
chance.
Because the fact that even a movie like that gets made now, instead of just going, we're going to need another Transformers here. I mean, like you watch the rehash slop that they were showing during the commercials. The Minions, great. Yeah, I thought maybe they'd explored everything they could do with the Minions.
Right.
Maybe
There's
the
so many of
Minions
them.
story had been told already in ways that, but no, they're still coming up with new ways. But a guy making a movie about a chef and his passion for food or whatever, that seems impossible by today's standards.
Now they're making Disney movies with real people.
You guys ever see The Big Night? Way back.
No, I know what it is, but I haven't
Tony
seen it.
Shalhoub.
Tony Shalhoub. And Mark Anthony, the pop star, plays the dishwasher. Doesn't have one single line. He's
He was married to J-Lo at one point.
at the time.
To bring it, no, and I don't know at the time. At some point, he was married to her.
Oh, yeah. And she's still going.
Just trying to bring that back. Hey, she's 50, and with A-Rod.
Yeah, that's right.
Damn, that's what 50 looks like. We were looking up the ages, the people I was with. Shakira turned 43 during that halftime show. She turned 43.
Well,
I'm
she
like,
started it at 42.
Yeah, pretty much. No, I don't know what time of day she was born. But the fact that they still look like that, like there's the standards, ladies. And if there was work done, then they have artists as surgeons. You know what I mean? Because I'm not a fan of the work done.
Of course, yeah.
The fake lips and the high cheeks and the Real Housewives or whatever. I got to take a trip to Europe last year for the first time ever in Italy, and I'm watching these women that just age gracefully. And
nice.
There's also the one little subset where they sit in windows and they look like Barbara Bush, and they just look out windows and they just wave to people.
Yeah,
There's
right.
that one little
Yeah, the little
subset.
village,
The rest of them are all just like gorgeous in their 50s and
Right.
60s, and like Americans take a lesson out of them. Don't get those stupid hot dog lips done. Just look like a beautiful 55-year-old.
Yeah, no, the
woman or
richer
whatever.
I think it's the richer you are, the more work you got to get done, but the worse you look. Honestly,
Yeah.
like if you just didn't do the lips are the worst, I think.
So like the country that gets the most number of nose jobs, I think, is Iran, and it's
Oh,
like
really?
I might have gotten the wrong country, but because like that's the only part of their face there's a set that you can see. It is like a status symbol to get your nose done. Not to say anybody can, but if you have it, you just look poor.
That's how you do it.
It's like, you know,
That's
So there's just like one conforming all-purpose,
Nose-
one size fits all nose.
some crazy happy plastic surgeon.
Do you know what the number one plastic surgery in Brazil is?
Ass.
Breast reduction.
Oh, come on,
True
yeah?
story.
No kidding.
Yeah, breast reduction. That's the problem they're dealing with in Brazil.
well, there was like a
It's-
whole
there's just
wasn't there
too
like a
big.
whole website? It was like back in the day. Fuck yeah, Brazilian girls. I think it was like
Never heard of that.
It was like
I've never heard of
it
that.
was some porn site.
There's a
Was it
band-
a porn site?
I don't know, or something like
There's a
that.
band
That's not what
called
this
the
show's about.
Brazilian
Maybe a
Girls,
Twitter
and they're
account?
really good, and they're not Brazilian and they're not girls, but they named their band. They're like kind of well known, but they named their band after the first names that weren't porn related. So it's Brazilian and girls were like, you know, the top 12 words that get Googled. They did Brazilian and girls, which are kind of porn related, I guess. But it would be like,
They didn't name it after the spa treatment, the Brazilian.
That's what I was assuming. Right? That's why that's being Googled, right? You know, they thought they were just like, yeah, people are probably just curious about Brazilian girls. They're just Googling Brazilian girls to learn about the culture.
Hold on, is
two
Shakira Brazilian?
separate girls.
No,
that-
Shakira's Colombian.
Oh, Colombian.
and she's actually half Colombian, half Lebanese.
Lebanese. Yeah, Lebanese. Yeah.
Yeah, because when they first announced that would be the halftime show, and by the way, thank you NFL for solving your problems the old-fashioned way. When it became a controversy, the whole, you know, why would anybody do the anthem when the halftime show when Colin Kaepernick has been persecuted, whatever. They did what rich white men do. They threw a bunch of money at somebody and said, make this go away.
Yeah, right.
In this case, it was Jay-Z.
Jay-Z.
We don't know what he got paid to make this socially cool again, but he saved us from a lifetime of Maroon 5.
Yeah. That's
God bless you
I
for
think
that.
it was less than you think. It was like $7 million or something. Because I know he then got killed like by people that claimed he was a sellout, which I thought was hilarious. Because I was like, Jay-Z to Jay-Z, $7 million is less than that plate over there cost me. He did this because he wants to control the halftime show, not for money. And I thought it was amazing. People
Well,
calling
here's
themselves.
the weird thing.
And the time it took you to say he's a sellout, he made more in interest
Yeah, right,
than $7 million.
Right.
Well, the thing is, he sat for the national anthem yesterday. Do you see this?
No.
I saw it on Twitter this morning. Him and
Ruh-roh.
Beyonce sat during. Somebody had a picture of them sitting during the national anthem. I'm like, hold on. I thought
That's
he
like-
partnered with the NFL. The whole thing was to make the Colin Kaepernick thing go away.
I bet he got like the green light from Goodell on that one. Like,
No,
No,
pun
no
pun
way.
intended. Where do you stand on that? Because I know your son served.
Yeah, I mean, like,
Where does he stand on? I mean, I don't know if he wants you to put in your opinion on
he
it.
invents new ways all the time not to give a fuck.
Okay.
Because I didn't sign up to be a Marine because I'm worried about someone protesting. That's fine. That's
Right.
That's their right. For me, when we talked about it on the air, I regretted it because I kind of went Sean Hannity when I really should have. I would have expressed myself better if I went like Dennis Miller.
Yeah.
You know, like I was angry because it's a sacred thing to me. I like this country. You can protest, that's fine, but why? And really, a better take than me just going screw Colin Kaepernick or whatever should have been, you know what? Why is it my symbols are cool to shit all over? You know what I mean? The things I like.
Right.
I like the flag. I like the anthem. And you prove how trendy you are in certain areas if you dump all over the things I like.
Yeah.
But if you dump all over, I don't know, Judaism, then you're an anti-Semite, and you should be. If
Are you? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. If you say something bad about Islam, you're committing a hate crime. All this is fine, but for some reason, the things I love are fair game for everybody.
So can I tell you this is my whole thing about how Trump got elected. I believe this, what I'm about to say. I believe that Donald Trump got elected mainly because for the last 15 years, let's say, there have been these people on the kick of getting Christmas trees no longer set up in town centers. And where I say that, what I mean is, like, I was raised Jewish. My mom converted, so half my family there is Christian. My wife converted. All that family's Christian. I'm pretty secular. But I was raised Jewish. No one wants to take away what I celebrate. There's these folks that just for like, look, with their dads, they went there. And their dads went there with their dads or their moms or their grandmothers, whatever. And they just want this thing. And it became cool to go, well, there's this group is the biggest group in America. We should take some of their stuff away from them. And it's to the point now where there's lots of people that are like, I'm not with this person's political belief. I don't like the way this person carries themselves. But if I keep going this way, they're just going to keep taking from me. And it's tough because, I mean, I'm a white male, and I see sometimes, like, somebody posted on Facebook that watching Kamala Harris feast on the tears of white males was the greatest thing ever. And I just felt myself being like, I align with you politically. And my first gut reaction as a human being was to be offended. I mean, then I try to talk myself down from it. But I just look at it and go, at some point we have to say, if I want you to respect everything about me and I want you to let me have my thing, then I have to respect everything about you either. Even if I don't agree with it or even if I feel like you have it all. This rabbi said to me once when we were at an event where they were lighting a menorah and there was a Christmas tree, he told me that he had been on the state level fighting for the right to have Christmas trees in every town center. And I asked him why, and he said, because he said, you shouldn't worry when people love stuff. He said, you should worry when people don't love stuff. He's like, when other people have things that are important to them, that means that that they have heart and soul and families and they care about shit. He was like, the world is getting ugly because people want to take things away from other people. Instead, just be like, hey, listen, if you're gay, like my personal belief is you should get married if you want to or not if you don't want to. Yep. If you want to stand for the national anthem, you should, and I admire it. If you want to sit, I'm cool with that too. You do you. I don't take it personal either way, but I do understand both sides. Like, I understand why someone's offended when you sit, and I also understand why people sit. I just think everybody has their opinions.
Why is Jay-Z sitting though? I don't.
So you know why Jay-Z's sitting? I'm going to say this, and you know Jay-Z's God to me. Here's why Jay-Z's sitting. Because he took $7 million to work with the NFL, and he got killed by a lot of people in his community for doing it. And someone in his camp said, this Super Bowl, you're going to sit, and it's going to make you look like a martyr. And that's why he did it. Yeah. And that's not cool. To me, that's inauthentic. Right. Like, no, don't. You just made this deal with them, and then he came out and said, Colin made his point. Now we're going to move forward. Then why are you sitting? Yeah. Like, wasn't the compromise that, like, you're going to do this thing? Now you're still protesting. Protests have to have demands that can be met, and protests have to end. You can't protest indefinitely, and you can't not ask for something as a payoff for the.
Well, especially that was my first reaction. Like, what does Colin Kaepernick want exactly?
Yeah,
because
we still don't know.
I can look at, say, Martin Luther King and say there was legislation that he wanted passed, and when this gets passed, this will be a victory for us. Well, when you just say I'm doing this because of racism, okay, but like what? Occupy Wall Street was the best example ever.
Oh God!
Like, I respect Colin Kaepernick for taking a stand, no pun intended, more than them, because that was just a bunch of like do-nothings who sat around and said, we're against the corporations and Wall Street. Okay, so you have iPhone in your pocket? Okay, yeah. And how do you pay for things? PayPal. Okay, and so that's backed by a credit card, right? And like, we're against school tuitions. Well, you know what? Then you shouldn't have gone to college. You should have gone to trade, and you would be zero debt right now. And so those were idiots who you could stop them dead in their tracks by saying, so what is it you guys want?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, people kill.
End of conversation.
People kill like capital. Now it's cute and cool to like kill businesses and kill capitalism and blah blah. And I'll say to people that say that, I'm like, so you should be anti-Amazon. I mean, that's a company that just absolutely treads on. And you know what? I've had multiple people look at me and be like, yeah, but let's not get ridiculous. Like, you can't just not use Amazon. And I'm like, what are you talking about? They said, well, what am I going to do? I go to the store. Like literally, Amazon's selling nothing that you can't get somewhere else. They'd be the easiest one to boycott if you're the boycotting type. But the reality is, everybody wants their opinion heard, and they're not willing to give up the stuff in their life. They want everyone else to give something up. And by the way, even more on Dr. King, he even would just like each protest had a payoff for that protest.
Yep.
So it was like, today we're going to march, and we just want this small thing from you. We're going to win this one little thing at a time. Kaepernick could have made a huge impact by giving the NFL small things that they could give in exchange for, hey, you don't want us doing this anymore, then donate money to this particular person's family who was wrongfully incarcerated and died in jail. Okay, something that's doable.
This is a weird question I just thought of is that it doesn't seem like they're less like cop killings than there were 2 years ago. Because I think that there are.
I don't know.
Because like everybody has, it just all of a sudden it became a thing. Smartphones, everyone had a smartphone. There were like, the guy getting choked out selling cigarettes.
Yeah.
Oh, so you're saying killings by police?
By police. And I'm not, it's like just in general, it's like it seemed like there was an awareness that just kind of exploded everywhere, and everyone took a side, and everyone was pissed off. And I do know it's like cops, like are still getting in the way of bad guys doing bad things.
Do you have friends that are police officers?
Yeah.
Do you?
Yes.
Okay, I do too, and I'll tell you what there is a little bit more of that's somewhat disturbing. It's harder to be a police officer, and so the reality is that there are
more cops killing themselves now than
ever. And there's less police officers signing up for the job, so they're all over. A lot of places they're understaffed, and the biggest issue is now you have situations where a police officer knows what the right thing to do is, but has to wonder about the optics.
Yeah.
And I always say, and that's why. And again, I mean, I love hip hop music, love Jay-Z. But I always say it's music it's anywhere where someone says fuck police or kill police, you've created a huge problem, because the last thing I want a police officer thinking when he pulls me over is that this is a dangerous situation. They're human beings too. So like the reality is, are there less police officers shooting people? Maybe, but sometimes there might also be. I mean, remember in your neighborhood, Sergeant Chestnut, right?
Sergeant Chestnut, yep.
That guy, that police officer, he knew. I mean, this person was a dangerous person. The reality was he didn't shoot him because you wonder if at some point in his head he's thinking, if this goes sideways, until this guy kills me, no one's going to say it was worth doing this. And instead we end up with a law enforcement officer killed.
And a woman, an elderly widow who was sitting in her porch by herself on a Sunday morning at 7:30. He was 30 minutes away from ending his shift in a quiet section of town that I grew up a 5-minute walk from. And my wife teaches kindergarten and first grade music, and had his daughter in her class. Oh. And the motorcade went literally right by my driveway, and it took 10 minutes to go by. So, and I did a fundraiser for him. A bunch of comics did. I was part of it. And for
craft beer seller Braintree actually raised a ton of money also for his family. But imagine guy holds the rock up, and the police officer shoots him. What's that story read like? Right. Imagine that.
Police
but instead he kills him.
Yep.
Instead the guy kills him. So I just think we both sides, we have to be rational. We have to say, listen, police officers have to be held accountable by other police officers. People have to be willing to say that guy's not doing okay. But also we all have to be like, hey, I require that police uniform to be scary enough to protect me. Yeah. The moment you think opening fire on someone wearing a badge is okay, we're lawless. Yeah. I mean, at that point we're
well, a big problem with I don't know how we got down this road, but
because I was going to. My whole point with that was like, did it actually accomplish anything? Like the fact that we're even talking about it now. Like,
I think you just see it less, like, unless it's a racial angle. I don't think you're going to see it on the news as much. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like the news.
Oh, listen, there's no news story when a police officer of one race kills a police officer of the same race. Yeah. By the way, that goes for everybody. There was a kid from Easton, Massachusetts, killed a little bit before the Trayvon Martin thing and before this was big news all the time. And the reason it wasn't a big news story was the kid was black, but so was the officer. Yeah. So that it doesn't fit someone's agenda.
Yeah.
Right?
Right. They all have agendas. But the weird thing to me about seeing the Jay-Z thing was just that, like, he is the American dream. Like, literally rags to riches. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I mean,
he was selling crack.
He was.
He was selling crack.
Literally selling crack. And now he's worth.
Is that how the American dream starts?
He's a billionaire that the biggest corporation that owns a day of the week comes to him and says, "We've got this problem. Solve it for us."
Right.
And he did. I think the best thing we can do is take those people on either extreme and just ignore them. Like, take the battery out of the megaphone because they yell louder than the people in the vast majority. And I mean, on one end, it's the people who say, "I'm against police brutality, so we're not serving you coffee." Pig, which has happened. I've written about this where, okay, so
that's unbelievable.
You won't serve a police officer in uniform coffee. When someone comes in to rob your place, who are you going to call?
Right.
Ghostbusters, and like you're going to call, I don't know, some politician to come solve your problem for you.
So fucked
and
up.
then the other end, it's, I don't know, the people who say, There's a war on Christmas. I'm not going to say happy holidays,
Yeah,
store
right.
clerk. You're offending me. What about my thing? And like, there's lunacy there. You know, when you're talking about the town display thing, you see these things all the time where the Church of like Satan or the flying spaghetti monster people, they want their display next to the war memorial at Christmas or whatever. And to my thing is, okay, great. I see what you're doing. It's a semantic argument for you, and you're saying your religion is no less legitimate than their religion. Okay, and when you win that court battle, which you will, then what happens next?
Right.
Are you going to build a hospital in the name of Satan? Are you going to is the flying spaghetti monster going to encourage you to go to some impoverished third world country and dig wells?
Right.
Because that's what the people from the legitimate religions are doing. And you're just here to win an argument and then go home to by yourself and fucking
I just wish
play
those people
video
had more
games.
going on in their lives. Like I get worked up about shit too, but then I'm like, oh shit, I got other stuff.
Yeah,
I
but you
gotta
can
do.
just
Exactly. Oh my God.
You could just send it though, 140 characters. You can just fire it off real quick and like, here's my
like
opinion,
Trump
you know what I mean?
when he said Kansas was proud of everybody last week.
Right. How does nobody like
The
check
only
that?
reason that scares me, because it's just funny. Like, it's just funny. And by the way, I'm on I'll always be comfortable going on record as saying, I told my wife this the day after the election. I'm like, it sucks, but like, man, like in
that's
4
not the-
years, the world's going to be all right. And in 4 more years, it'll be all right.
Have you guys seen videos of him trying to drink water?
Oh, God.
I don't think he's ever had a sip of anything without straws, or he's got fake teeth or something.
Oh, he definitely has fake teeth.
There's something going
Yeah,
on.
he's just like, he gets like right up to it, and he's just kind of like,
But the tweet thing, the only reason that I'm concerned at all about that is more just that, like, the leader of the free world
No, it's
is
not the free world.
communicating.
No, what about his own country? He doesn't know.
No, I don't care that he doesn't know. You're missing my point. I don't give a fuck that he doesn't know that the Chiefs aren't from Kansas. I don't care. What I care is that the leader of the fucking free world communicates openly with the entire globe through this platform and doesn't check his own information for accuracy or doesn't have somebody else.
have
So it's
anybody
like, when I saw that, I just thought, like, how much other shit does he put out that someone in his office? Can you imagine working for the guy? You know, you're just like, oh, fuck. Like, at all times, you're like, dude, what the fuck?
When I put a factual inaccuracy in the middle of a 3,000-word blog, it kills me. Like
I know, it's
if
bad.
I get a play wrong or something,
Yeah,
or I
right.
thought this was, I thought Vinatieri's kick against Carolina was the last play of the game. No, there was 9 seconds left on the
Right,
clock.
right.
Damn it!
Yeah.
And I put that out there. I sound like an idiot
know,
or
I
whatever.
know.
And this guy is just constantly communicating with the whole world.
The thing is, he could have just not said anything about where they were from. He could have just been like, congratulations to the Chiefs. He had to say, you've made the state. By the way, he probably did make the state. They probably did make the state of Kansas proud, and the state of Rhode Island, and the state of Illinois. Like, he could have been like, what I meant was
Right. And it's a-
specifically Kansas.
And it's a battleground state, so get that
That's
one
right,
right.
yeah,
If you
yeah.
get nothing else right.
Cool, well-
And my thing is, I used to make fun of people who use, say, Facebook to take pictures of their dinner plates, or here's another video of my cat sleeping under a. I welcome those days. Please bring them back.
Right.
I've stopped going on it pretty much just because it's all people I know that are angry about politics, and they're posting articles that enrage them, and they want you to be equally enraged. And this is on both ends of the spectrum. Like, I have the internet. I can find my own articles. Thank you very
Right.
much. But they're just so angry that we're divided, and I don't think it's coming back.
When you write something,
Andrew Yang, maybe.
when you write something, fairly political, do you get way more haters? And
See,
critics?
I don't.
I know you stay away from it, but you talk about
I-
the spaghetti monster.
No, I think the Barstool audience, and I'm making fun of PC culture
Yeah,
and
of course.
things that I think are extremist
Right.
and loony and whatever.
Yeah.
And I think that speaks to our audience pretty
Oh,
much.
yeah, for
Politically, I think our office is lousy with people on both ends of the spectrum, and as you know, the smartest thing that this site ever did, and we did in the early days, is no politics, because you know,
Yeah. Republicans buy shoes too.
Yeah, exactly. Red shirts and blue shirts by states. Red
Saturdays
shirts
for
and
all the
blue
boys.
states by shirts.
We get it.
Yeah, it's hard for me to say, but
Well, that's how
yeah.
apolitical you are.
Exactly. And my new philosophy is that we move back in with England. We just go back to our parents and
Yeah.
just say, you know what, 250 years is a good run
Do you feel like
for a democracy.
Well, do you feel like
and it's
they're
not-
getting it right?
Yeah.
Is that what you feel like?
No,
They're getting it
but
right?
but just let's,
Like
just
you
go.
watch Parliament, it's like
Yeah.
the best. They're always yelling at each other.
Oh, yeah,
But
yeah.
I just want to go to the Queen and go, remember that stuff we said, we don't have to live under your rules. We can go out on our own. Yeah, well, we're not paying our bills, and our roommate's not talking to us, and it's really not working out. So can we just go back in and you can solve all our problems for us? And I don't think.
Britain
but
can't
yeah,
afford our debt.
you'll look
Britain
at-
can't afford our debt.
Right, you look like it's a real.
So
it's a
basically,
shit
all
show.
your haters and critics are just people that hate Tom Brady. Online, I mean.
Yeah, pretty much. And you know what? And I welcome it. I have.
Yeah, how do you deal with them? You just respond with, do you even respond, or a lot of
Uh,
them go back and forth?
Sometimes, yeah, exactly. I people who talk about the internet like it's this, like, you know, the night is dark and full of terrors. I don't know.
They're not gonna
It's-
come kill you.
I don't take it seriously. They're just, you know,
Right.
it's zeros and ones to me.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And people like a lot of guys in Boston media. I was talking about how much contempt they have. Love to talk about how many people they've blocked, how many people they've.
God.
Guys who couldn't look at the text line while they were doing a show because of the negativity. I just
Talk
kind of
about John Dennis specifically.
Yeah, look, but he's not alone in that.
yeah.
And it's okay if you don't care about it, but if that negativity gets to you, then I don't. Maybe
It's
I'm
tough
just,
business.
Yeah, exactly. For me, it's not. The biggest problem isn't so much the color of person's skin; it's the thickness of their skin.
Yeah, right.
And I can't.
There's a lot of sensitive people in media, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Which is like comical because your whole job is to communicate with people. So it's like if they communicate back, you're gonna be upset with them. That
I guess, and
never
maybe
made
it's,
sense to
maybe
me.
it's hard if someone's just telling you all day that you suck and you don't know what you're talking
Yeah,
about
right,
or
right.
whatever. Or if someone says you're not funny, all right, sure, that's subjective, you know, and someone else will like it. But I blocked one guy one time, and it's because he was constantly coming at me with specific things about, I know where you drink, and one day you're going to feel a tap on your shoulder, I'm going to punch you, and you don't tip. And I finally just called him out. Someone told me who he was.
Oh, yeah.
And so I had this back and forth with him one night because I was bored, and I just said, so where do I drink? Where is my place? Like, what section of Massachusetts is it in?
Yeah.
And he couldn't tell me. Like, name a bar I go to. He couldn't tell me. So I said, here's what I know about you. Here's your name. This is the band you were in. You're tending bar because your band failed. And he starts going, hey, I'm just having fun, man. I go, and you have a beard that looks like a 70s vagina, and I'm banning you. And I did. And then he got banned from Twitter a while ago. After.
Really?
But that's one out of 10, 12 years I've been on it. So I welcome it, man. It's a nasty place, but that's because that's what life is. So
I had somebody once, not very long ago actually, say on a social media platform, mention some personal stuff, like not anything, just more like to let me know they knew who I was, and I didn't know who they were. So I sent the guy a private message. I was like, "Who are you? What's your relationship to this conversation that's being had between me and this person? And like, what's the deal?" And they wrote back, "Oh, dude, I'm so sorry. Like, I was friends with your college roommate, blah blah. I remember you. And by the way, like, dude, I was just clowning around, and I happen to agree with your point."
wow,
And I'm like,
that's
you're a prick. Like,
that's
dude, you're a prick. Like,
friggin-
you decided to make me feel like unsafe about my my actual life and embarrass me publicly, and you agree with my fucking point.
oh, that's sociopathic.
It was
huh?
bizarre, man.
One-
But it was
one
also chicken shit because the first thing when I was like, oh hey, it was like immediately like,
Backpedal.
oh, listen, by the way, big fan, and I'm like, dude,
Right.
that's not cool.
You know what? You live a different life online, so to me it's a lot like when you're in your car and someone swerves across the lane and they get back in, and you fucking hate that person and everything in the world that's wrong with another human being they embody. And if you actually met that person, you go, it's just some woman who just was like dropped something or whatever. She got distracted for a second, and you'd feel bad. Well, online you've got that same kind of armor, like, you're an idiot who doesn't know anything about what he's talking about, and you would never say it to their face. So I was doing an appearance for EEI one time at a bar, a Patriots game, and hanging out, giving out stuff, and a guy was threatening me he says, I'm here, and I'm gonna you're an asshole. I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna punch your lights out or whatever. And I'm like, well, that's odd. Just a guy here giving out key rings and T-shirts or whatever and watching the Pats game. And when he told me what jersey he was wearing, and I ignored it, half an hour later, I'm talking to someone, and this guy's standing kind of in my peripheral vision, and it was him. And he was just this nebbish, like this thick glasses, and just this weak guy who probably couldn't like lift a barbell with no weights on it over his head, who just was threatening me in these specific ways. I never even talked to him. He didn't talk to me.
Yeah.
And I just go, wow, it's strange.
You can
man.
say it online, but not to my face. But the
And
weird-
why? Like, I don't know what the hell
Yeah,
I'm
of
doing.
course. Well, Barstool, they've had, the funny thing to me is that, there's critics online that just shout into the abyss. But then when you have critics like, Real Sports or Brian Gumbel or whatever do actual pieces, like,
Oh, yeah.
you're legitimizing the company, right? So now more people are, again, eyes on it. And then most people can judge for themselves what is, out of bounds or not out of bounds, or, is that content for me or not? You know what I mean? So these media companies that try to play, the arbiter of everybody, that never works, because you're just putting more eyeballs on that site or whatever. And most people are smart enough to realize if content's good for them or not. You either like it or you don't like it.
Well, the woman from the Washington Post that put out the Kobe story was getting death threats and stuff. But the craziest part was she was getting rape threats. And the craziest part about that, I was like, you're so mad that she called out your idol for being a rapist that you threatened to rape her. At least I get your moral value statements. At least you're like, don't mention the fact he's a rapist, because I support him as a rapist and will rape you. Yeah. It's not funny, but at the same time, it's kind of funny. It's like, are you
right? Yeah.
Did you catch yourself? And also, are there people in your real life that you would say, yeah, that bitch, I threatened to rape her?
Yeah, right.
Would you say that out loud?
No, I know.
Is that something you'd admit to? But yeah, that woman, and the Washington Post didn't do anything to support her or protect her.
They
suspended her.
Yeah, but only for like a day though.
Yeah,
it's still stupid.
Yeah, not cool.
And look, I felt it's inappropriate to say things about this in the aftermath of him dying, so I didn't.
Right.
It's as simple as that. If someone else chooses to, all right, Gary Tangway
Sure.
came right out with a tweet. Didn't care about his personal life, but he was a great basketball player.
And then he deleted it, too.
I'm not about
Did he
the
delete it?
cancel culture thing, and people debate whether it's real or not. I think it's real,
Oh, it's
and
for sure
I'm
real.
against it. If there's someone who, like a host who goes on WEI and says, we are a racist city and everything bad you ever hear about is 100% true, I want that guy in front of a microphone because I like to keep tabs on him.
Yeah, of course.
I like to know where you are.
Yeah, right.
I'm not like, get him off the air. How dare you? And that's whether if somebody hates me or whatever. The Barstool comment section in its nadir and its low point was great for me because I went from, wow, things used to all be positive. Now I'm getting this hate stuff sent to me to the point where if I went 3 comments without someone saying I molest the kids that I coach, I'm like, I'm having a good day.
Yeah,
they really like me today. So by the time I hit it to EEI, nothing, I was bulletproof.
Yeah.
Because I've been through the worst and you just come to accept it, and we cleaned that up. All that stuff is gone. All the nasty, racist stuff from anonymous idiots is gone, and it's a better world when there's silence. But
Right.
the big ones, I kind of want to hear from them.
Kobe has a good quote actually, where he said, it was one of the quotes that got posted after his death that I liked. It was, having haters is a really great thing because people don't hate good ones; they hate great ones.
Yep.
And it's true, right? It's like at some point, the reason that guy in your inbox is like, "Oh, dude, I was just messing around," is because they think of you the way you think of LeBron. I shit on LeBron all day. If I met LeBron, he seems to be a great human being. Yeah, I wouldn't shit on LeBron to his face. I'd be like, dude, what you've done is incredible in your life. I just hate on him because to me, it's like he's a character. It's like he's not a human being. Yeah. And as goofy as it sounds, there are people out there that think of you as not they hate this idea. They don't actually hate you. They'd buy you a beer. The guy that probably is the loudest in your comment section, if they met you, would probably be like, dude, I got to buy that guy a beer so I can tell my buddies I met Jerry Thornton and bought him a beer. You know?
It's funny. I've never had anyone come up to me and say, hey, I think you suck.
Yeah, right,
you know what I mean? They'll say it online, but bigger targets get more shit, I'm sure. And I can't for the life of me imagine what it's like to be a woman who writes for the Washington Post and the kind of hate stuff.
Or Michael Rappaport.
They got. Yeah, there's a guy who brings it on himself. But yeah.
Or El Prez. El Prez, I'm sure, has his fair share of haters.
Oh, unbelievably. And I mean, his are HBO and the Globe,
right.
and
media conglomerates here.
Yeah, WEI. When God forbid, we had our logo slapped on a towel at the Bruins game.
Oh, I know.
And they did that same rehash, and I called them out for it, and they had me on OMF to talk about it, and I just, and seemed really pissed off that I defended my site, and I'm like, you're the guys who always told me sports radio is all about having an argument.
Yeah.
Well, I'm having an argument,
right. Right.
But oh no, how dare you defend your own company? Because
that was old sports radio. Old sports radio.
Oh yeah, I mean, we've had people trying to put us out of business forever, and the readership and the listenership grows because, like I said, the call her daddy girls or the chicks in the office.
Right.
Or,
Oh, my wife listens to, and she had Sirius. What's this? Chicks in the Office, and now she follows them on Instagram. They just talk like she wants to be one of them, just talking about celebrities all day. But like, I mean, that's where
What a life.
Right.
That's where Portnoy's great with.
Our entire power structure is Dave and women. Anyone
Right,
with a
of course.
C before in their title, CEO, CFO,
Yeah,
they're
all women.
females. And my favorite reaction to that investment was Erica, our CEO. She wrote a thing about,
Is that him just trying to save money? 78%.
Good point. She put 450 million reasons to be glad I'm a token CEO.
Yeah,
because she
exactly.
was called a token. I mean, talk about people with no sense of irony.
Right.
You're saying that this company that has a run by a woman is sexist. Oh, but she's a token. Oh, but we're the sexists.
Yeah, right.
Okay, fantastic.
Exactly. Exactly.
On that note, we really appreciate you being here today.
Hey, this was a lot of fun. I feel like we went 10 minutes, but it might have been 4 hours.
No. Well, tell Dave that we're available if you want to join the podcast.
Let's not put too much pressure on Mr.
Still
Thornton.
gotta,
All right?
gotta-
he stays out of the business side of things.
Those
No,
those
it's just a text. That's all he has to do.
Oh,
Those
Jesus.
pages are not going to click themselves, guys. I gotta get them clicks baited. So, but no, it's
For sure.
it's fun, man. I never met you guys before. We've talked online a little bit, but geez, you guys got a good thing going here, and I had a lot of laughs.
Well, thank you. Most of them you caused, and we appreciate that.
And, February 22nd.
Yes, at Victory Point in Marina Bay. Really nice place. Tickets are available online. I'll start posting links to that. But we've got a great show. Paul Keenan and Bill Farrell, because we are really celebrating diversity there. We're going from tall Irishmen to short Irishmen.
Hey,
We'll
that's
get
cool,
one-
though. That's cool.
Just this show only. We'll
Yeah.
we'll get some in there. Not after St. Patrick's Day because they're usually pretty useless for a couple of weeks, including me.
Yeah, of
Oh,
course.
that's pretty good. Dave, appreciate you being here as well.
And
Corey, you
Avi,
did a great job.
Who's our sponsor today?
And,
Tell us one more
again,
time.
Craft Beer Sellers in Braintree. Thank you very much for giving us the beers that we didn't really drink today. But either way, we will at some point. Anybody that needs some great beers over there in the landing, right there in Braintree. Again, Corey, thank you very much. And this was Heat in the Kitchen.